All right. It is Saturday, April 17th, 2021. I'm Steven Searski. Thank you for joining me. Today, I have another in studio guest, David Horton. We're colleagues here in Beijing, China. And today, we are both available. He's available, back from traveling around China for work. And today, we're going to talk a lot about what it's like to work and live here in China. And then also Dave's experience as an expat, not just in China, but travels that he's had before and what he does when he's not working. Notably, that he does a lot of writing in his spare time and sort of a second life of sorts. Poetry, literature, music, arts, and culture is a lot of what we talk about today. Hope you guys enjoy it. This is David Horton on episode 23. Welcome. All right. Well, how do I? I must inform you that this test is being recorded. This is episode number 23 of my podcast. Thank you. This is Dave Horton. Dave Horton with me today, and I guess we've known each other here in Beijing. We worked together here.
A couple of years.
When did you come to Beijing? Have you always been in Beijing, or?
20. Well, I came once in 2005 to work at China Radio, and that was terrible. And I went to California because I had a better gig offered, and then came back in 2009, and have been here since.
2009. Okay.
Yeah.
So what brought you back in 2009?
I was going to work on a project, and the project fell through, of course, because everything does. And I just stayed on, really. Like, it's a lack of momentum.
Oh, but so what were you doing for that project?
Well, it was going to be like an art project with an art book, and I had done a ton of research and gotten people together, and things just fell apart because that's how a lot of things happen. But it's all right. It got me here. I've been working on a few things since then. Some have worked, some haven't, and and have been doing work to try to finance half of the things that I'm interested in actually doing. But
we're both in the ESL industry, glorified teachers, I guess you could call it.
Yeah, well, I like. Hold on. It's what did you call it? Working traveler, I think is.
Yeah, that's what I call myself.
Yeah,
I'd like to label myself as a working traveler, but I haven't been traveling very much. Well, we travel for work now, I guess, and some people find that sort of to be an interesting lifestyle, and it can be. Although the reality of a working traveler is kind of a little more shitty than most people would like.
It's yeah. No, I remember like one time, like back in my college days. Can't remember what band it was. It was probably like Cracker or something, and like one of the guitar players that was, just like hired to tour with them. I was like talking to him at this restaurant that I worked at the time, and was talking to him for no good reason, and it was just like, oh, that must be exciting. And he's like, every hotel is the same. It doesn't really matter what city you're in. And
but are they? I don't know. I mean, because our colleagues, we all sort of have but that hotel has this thing, and it's near to that.
Yeah, but it's like, when you talk about like the idea of like going on tour, regardless of what the job is, it's like to people who don't do it, it actually sounds cool.
Yeah.
Until you do it,
and then you're like, this sucks. It also depends on how long you do it, I guess. Like I've noticed, since I've cut back on the number of hours that I do, it's a little bit more manageable. But like when you are leaving Sunday morning and paying for an apartment and not coming back until Friday night, and you're living on the road for most of that time out of a suitcase, I mean, it gets tiring. And then if you only have the one day off, like Saturday, and like as you said, you have to do your laundry at some point because you don't want to pay for it, because then that takes the money out of your pocket all of a sudden that you're working so hard for. But since I've cut back, I think it's a lot more manageable to live like this sort of thing.
I don't know. Like I still work as much as I can just because I'm trying to put money in the bank.
But you're a lifer. You're basically a lifer. You're one of these you're like halfway, I guess, because there's people that we work with that have been doing this. Like Steve Black, who's on my podcast. He's been here since 1998, I think he showed up.
Yeah.
And so, and you got your feet wet in 2005, but came back 2009. So I mean, and I came here 2014. So I mean, I'm a baby in terms of the
still, man. That's like what percentage of your life is that? No, I was thinking about that. Like this is actually this is the longest I've ever lived in any city.
Me too.
And it kind of makes me itchy.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Just like thinking about that, it's like, oh man, time to go.
Where else would you go?
I don't know.
Chengdu?
No.
Changchun? Shanghai?
Africa, South America, like, you know.
Man, have you seen that documentary Trafficked? I wouldn't go anywhere near South America now. They'd chop your head off over there, man.
Well, no, but I mean, like, there's loads of places to go, you know. It's but yeah, whatever. It's not one of those things I think about daily, but you know, it's
Why not? What else gets you through the day?
Not thinking, you know.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in our current employment. But so you would leave. So, are you thinking of leaving?
I've honestly the whole time that I've been here, I'm always open to opportunities that are better.
Are you saying that China's still the best offer?
Well, for someone who's not actively looking, yeah, you know, it's like it's you know, but if something were to pop up that would be either more interesting or better suited to, you know, any of the things that I'm actually more interested in, I would have to give it consideration.
But would you take it?
I might.
So what would be the pusher, the tipping point?
You know, that's a good question. I think there would be like a few things that would be, you know, attractive, like ending up in a place that had relatively decent or cheap healthcare, like, you know, like.
So not like, the United States.
Just, you know, like basic things like that. No, and then just, you know, depending on what kind of line of work it would be, you know.
ESL, your favorite?
Well, I've had a lot of different jobs, so I would probably move away from teaching, surprisingly enough, or if I went back to teaching, it would actually be to teaching subjects other than second language, probably.
Mm-hmm. Like an actual subject?
Well, I have done.
Not a bad thing. Well, and I know I don't think a lot of our colleagues, you know, want to go back to teaching. I'm not sure if I would. If I had to go back to teaching, I'd want to go back to a university situation. But I'd be okay with teaching English again because it's nice and easy, and I don't mind the linguistic aspect of it, even though they don't care. The students, I mean, they're not linguists; they're just trying to pass a test, right? More often than not, and whether it's like the university test or some standardized test, it doesn't matter. I mean, they're all just going to get through the bare minimum. I mean, I can't blame them for it. I think now, after being in the ESL industry for so long, I think my approach to the teaching would be a lot more effective as well. I'd be a lot more brutal in my, no, do this. Just do this. Don't worry about that. Okay, yeah, special case, don't worry. We're just going to give you the structure. Don't think about it.
Here's the boilerplate. Just move along.
You don't need to think about it too much. Just say the words. Because, I mean, I've heard other people say it. All language is memorized. Is it not? In a manner of speaking, your intonation, your vocabulary, your grammar structure, your grammar patterns, everything. I mean, you learned it from somewhere. Whether it's you learned it all at once or you learned it in bits and pieces, and then put them together. So I don't know. So I'd be okay with going back to ESL teaching, but not children, and at a university level, it'd have to be at a higher level, I think.
Yeah, I've never actually taught children or teenagers.
You didn't start on the whole Japan or South Korea, start off in the classroom?
I was actually, before I did ESL, I was teaching at university level and like community colleges in the States. And then I had a year sabbatical and I came to China and worked at the university here. and then opted to stay. I'm still confused about that.
Well, what got you to stay in China then?
It honestly, it just at the time it seemed better than what I was doing back in the States, and I thought that somehow it would lead to something, and it actually didn't, because the university gigs here are pretty. Trying to think of a nice word to say, dead end, but it's like you don't really move up in a department, and you don't really, it's like.
What were you teaching though?
Well, when I first came, I was actually teaching the PhD writing classes, EMA classes, and then in theory, I had a class with professors where I was teaching them to write like abstracts in English.
Yeah. But it was still sort of like an English composition or English language course.
Yeah. It was basically, like this is what they're looking for. This is, like you were saying, like this is the boilerplate, like that kind of stuff. But in my first year, I ended up failing. I had a class of 100 odd writing students, and I failed 90 of them for plagiarism, and that was the beginning of my teaching in China.
I don't think my students had trouble with that too. They were like, well, I got it from the internet. I'm like, yeah, you can't just do that. But maybe that's a dated thought. And they almost brutalized me to the point that I was like, you know what, you're right. But no, you're not supposed to. Even though copyright infringement, copyright claims have to change because of the internet. I mean, it's not what it was 20 years ago, 10 years ago.
Put a quotation mark around that.
What about paraphrase?
Still, you cite it. It's like that's fine. It's like use as many ideas as you can. Like that's fine. Just cite it. Like nothing wrong with that. Like it's like I wrote a paper in grad school. It was only like a 10-page paper. Had like 100 footnotes. It's fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but they don't want to do that.
Well, no, but that's the work.
Yeah,
and like especially like if you're at like PhD level, like I don't care like what discipline you're in. It's like that you should be citing people.
Yeah, you're supposed to. I think it's generally accepted practices, isn't it? Well, and I was teaching first years, and they were fun to teach because they were so willing to learn. But they had no no method at all. So I had to teach them exactly what to do. And that citing internet.
Did you know what you were doing when you did that?
What do you mean? What did?
Well, because
I
learned how to teach ESL as I was doing it, because that's not what I was teaching when I started. So I came at it the wrong way.
Right. Well, I had to do the CELTA course before I came to China.
Oh yeah. See, I did CELTA much later.
That is so typical for people that are in China, though, because China didn't clamp down, or at least they didn't make it sort of one of these visa requirements until later on.
Yeah.
And that also didn't happen until, mid-2000, 2010s or something, 20-teens?
Yeah.
Because, but then since I came in 2014, that's when I think there was sort of a change, even in South Korea. They had made a lot of their people go get master's degrees or some sort of certification that proved that they were what they said they were.
Well, I've got a master's in English, but I studied, like avant-garde American poetry. So, it's like I don't think that's
really an employable major.
But it got me jobs in the States. Is
there a big demand for it?
No.
No, kind of like classics.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's like, how do you feel about teaching comp? And you're like, love it.
So what were you teaching in the United States then?
Well, before I came to China, I was teaching at a small religious college, and I was teaching freshman comp, literature, and I had one ESL class because I had like 3 students from Taiwan, and basically I was just one-on-one tutoring them.
Yeah.
But that was far from systematic.
Classroom full of kids that here your classes would be a lot bigger too, wouldn't they?
Oh yeah. That was even when I was doing like community college in the States. It's like the biggest the class ever was like 20. Yeah. And it's like here it's like I think my smallest class was 35.
Yeah. Man,
It's
there's just so many people.
Here's a conversation class with 50 students. By the way, your grades are due next Tuesday, and you need to give them all one-on-one finals. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the summation of English communication classes here in China.
Yeah.
Which I guess it never really dawned on me that was such a terrible method, because like, even at the Celta course they teach us, to pair up people.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but they don't want to talk to each other.
Yeah.
They don't want. The kid they're sitting beside, they're like, his English is worse than mine. I don't want to talk to him.
Yeah.
And so, like, the few smart kids would be like, oh, okay, guess I got to make the rounds because teacher will be happy. But yeah, it's like they didn't want to pair up and talk to each other, and it's a challenge because they didn't know, they wouldn't understand what the other person was saying either. Which goes back to just teaching the structure.
Yeah.
Have the other kid follow along with his finger. Yeah, just read. The other kid, just speak, just talk. I mean, that's all you need to do. But which brings us to another point of why did you cancel your Chinese class today?
I had other things that I needed to do this morning, and actually Saturday morning is usually for laundry and studying Chinese, and I wouldn't have been able to finish the work to make it worthwhile to go to class.
How are those classes going?
They're going all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm almost done with my first book, which is...
Which book are you on?
Like, I guess upper elementary, like whatever. I'm not sure where that fits in with their scale, but yeah, it's like upper elementary, about to get to lower intermediate.
Which is they have a bizarre. Are you using the BLCU books? The green top and the white bottom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that one.
We share the same Chinese teacher, so she actually gave me a free class because several of our colleagues signed up, and so she's like, "Yeah, I'll give you a free hour for
nice.
spreading the word." And I mean, you're using her. There's a few other people using her. She's a fantastic teacher. Probably one of the best teachers I've ever had.
Yeah.
I think she's teaching me how to teach, just in general. But yeah, you're saying upper elementary, which is funny because it's almost insulting. You're in your mid-30s and you're like,
yeah,
all I am is upper elementary. If anybody ever saw this,
I'm okay with that. It's like that's just where I'm at. It's that's on me. I've been here like so long. The fact that I can't read a newspaper at this point. That's
not unusual.
No, it's not unusual, but it's
Did you study Chinese before you came here, or?
I actually, when I was in Nanjing before, the first round, like I actually took classes at Nanjing University, and I got to the level where I could read a newspaper with a dictionary, but then in the 3 years that I was back in the States, didn't use it at all and basically lost 90% of it, so.
So were you studying Chinese?
Mm-hmm.
Like proper in the classroom, teacher, other students?
Yeah.
So what happened?
Well, I went to the States and never used it and never looked at it because I never thought I was coming back to China. So, there was no point. And then, if you, like, quite honestly, it's, it's Chinese. I mean, you know how this is. Like, if you're not constantly reinforcing what you've learned, it'll drop out of your head pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I remember one of our colleagues who, he basically, he didn't challenge me, but he said that, if you just focused, you could get to HSK 4, HSK 5 within a year. I got to HSK 4.
Yeah.
And I started at HSK 2 just because I was like, I'll just start right at the bottom, see how it goes. But it was difficult. And he's like, basically what you got to do is you got to hit the language so hard that you get to a point where it just sticks no matter what.
Yeah.
That you can't forget it. And yeah, it does. Like, I'm still studying characters, and it's actually one of the major bothers with the language is just that you're always reading the dictionary. It's not, you're not reading literature, you're reading...
Yeah.
You're reading the dictionary with interrupting with a novel, basically. Like, if you tried to read a novel, you're not actually reading the novel, you're reading the dictionary to understand what the characters are. But you don't get to the point of being able to read the novel without reading the dictionary several times, basically. So how good was your Chinese back in 2005?
Like on the HSK levels, somewhere between 3 and 4.
Okay, and they've changed it since then.
Yeah, but that's the
old style.
Yeah.
Because they've changed it again this year.
Yeah, well, soon.
Wow. I don't think it'll be too much of a difference. I was talking to our teacher, and I was like, if I'm approaching HSK 5, at that point, you know so many of the characters, you know enough of the grammar structures that all the work is being pushed downwards, not upwards, basically. Yeah. So, are you aiming for fluency in the language, or do you care?
No, it's basically, honestly, like basic functionality. I would like to be able to do some translation, which, is sitting there with the dictionary. Like Ezra Pound translated, and he didn't speak a lick of the language.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he knew how to use the dictionary, and that's how he did it.
Before Google Translate.
Yeah, exactly. Like having to know which radical and counting the strokes kind of thing.
Ugh, that sounds terrible. Oh, boy.
But, it's like getting to that level, like I'm already at the level, it's like whatever, like shopping, done.
But you're good at speaking, though. Like, I've heard you speak. I mean, you're able to communicate with the taxi drivers.
Speaking and listening is fine. I good enough. Well, no, like for most things, it's like I can say, for most topics, 1 or 2 vague sentences, and it's, by the time you get to like the 3rd sentence, you're like, okay, I'm done. But,
Really? Okay.
Well, but quite honestly, in most cases, in English, I'd probably be done too. It's like...
Yeah. What is the gauge of fluency? Like, well, the fluent speaker would be like, turn left. Just go there. It'd be so short and sweet. Like, it's like, I'm watching my video. I don't want to talk to you, basically. Yeah. But, so 3 sentences. But, so then what are you working on now? Are you working more on the speaking aspect, or are you working more on like the character development for the reading and writing?
I'm focusing more on grammar structures that I don't know. So that
there's a lot of those.
Well, yeah, but, it's like, building up the bank of grammar.
Mm-hmm.
Some are more useful than others. Character recognition, putting the characters together, and then recognizing, oh, these 2 things mean this, because that's...
Like actual proper vocabulary?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Which sounds odd.
No,
but each character has a meaning.
To someone who doesn't study Chinese, it's like ping. Depending on what comes right after it, that ping has 50 different meanings.
Yeah.
So it's, something, so like knowing what some of those collocations are. Ooh, that's a nice word. Collocation.
Yeah, all those, well, and even just I found one of the problems I had is when they start transliterating the English words. You're like, oh, that's what Stanford is.
Sheen, ba, ke, and you just like fail. You fail. That's bad. That's Starbucks, by the way.
Xinbaku. Well, Xinbaku is that because it's star. Xin is star, and then Baku is bucks, right? The other one that I encountered was internet.
Yeah.
I was like, I thought it was just Wangshang, but Wangshang is on the internet, like surfing, but Wang is internet. But they actually use Wangluo as the internet connection, on the idea of the internet itself. So what would be the most useful grammar structure that you've encountered so far? Jigga. Jigga.
Yeah. Boo. Booyah.
Booyah.
Yeah. Bushing. No, just the basic stuff, like the stuff that you learn like straight away is probably the most useful.
Mm-hmm.
Wo yao, Jaga. There you go. I mean, that's the level of my Spanish, and that got me through Mexico fine.
Yeah, you don't need much to travel.
Poquito, por favor. It's like that's enough. But just being here seems like you should.
You've been here long enough.
Yeah, well, and this is the thing is like I can watch I actually go through and rewatch because I've seen them all already, like the original like Monkey King TV.
Oh, really?
Yeah, TV series. Like both seasons. It's like 120 something episodes. And it's like I can follow probably 75% of what they're saying. I know 3 different ways to say emperor, and like
Huang Di, isn't it?
Well, Huang Di, Bisha. Da Wang, it's perfectly useful.
Yeah, you'll never use that.
I use it all the time. I use it on the subway.
With who?
With people who are being rude. Just being like, oh, excuse me, Emperor, after you.
Oh, jeez. Oh, you're one of those foreigners. Sarcasm. Did they get it? They're probably like, why'd you call me Emperor?
Yeah, usually. It's like, well, it's when you call someone princess, and they're like, oh, wait, that's not right.
Yeah, but princess, especially if it's a guy. What? Yeah. Wait a minute. Yeah. So you're actually able to watch the TV shows then and actually understand what's going on?
Like I said, 75% usually. Some of the bad soap operas, if I watch them, which I don't anymore, but
I tried. I can't. I'm just like, this is too much crying, and I don't watch the stuff in English.
Well, no, exactly. You're just like, oh, it's like 90210, but in Chinese and 30 years later.
Yeah, with cell phones. That's it. Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, it's easy enough Chinese. I still have difficulty. If they didn't have the subtitles, all the TV shows in China are subtitled, which is good in standard Mandarin. But if they didn't have the subtitles, I don't think I'd understand what they're doing. So it's much more of a reading practice,
right,
than it is listening. And then I found.
See, I don't know the characters, so.
Oh, really? So you can hear it, but you can't read it.
But half the time, yeah.
Wow. I know I'm much better at character recognition than I am at going. If someone said something, I'd be like, "What did you say?" Just write it down. It'd be so much easier. I even had this issue last week, where I was at Jing'e in Guomao, and one of the waiters was talking to me. I'm like, I know what you're talking about, but I don't understand everything you're saying. Or I understand what you're saying, but I don't know what you're actually saying.
Right.
So, and it's getting frustrating because it's like, I have been here for 6 years, 7 years, and I have difficulty talking to people and understanding what they're saying and being able to switch from speaking English to speaking Chinese with someone. And it's aggravating as shit. It bothers me. I'd like to switch on a dime, basically. But you're able to do that. You're able to pull out your Chinese sentences and instruct the Shifu where to go.
Yeah, well, it's not like I'm pulling from a vast bank, though.
Oh.
It's like it's easy when your bag isn't that big.
Do you think if you had a larger vocabulary that you would have the similar conversations in Chinese that you do in English? Would you be able to, or would you want to?
It would be interesting to be able to talk a little bit more with some of the people around me, but quite honestly, I don't know who I would actually be talking Chinese
I don't know.
to. It's like, quite honestly, I don't have, most of the friends that I have that are Chinese speak English much better than I speak Chinese, so it's like they get frustrated with me.
That is the reality. I was reading on Reddit or Quora or something like that, and one of the challenges with actually learning Mandarin, I think the question was which should you learn for business purposes? Is it standard Mandarin, Japanese, or something else?
Right.
And the answer was, don't bother learning Mandarin. The reason is because if a company needs someone to speak Mandarin, they're going to hire a Mandarin speaker, because chances are their English is better than a foreigner's who came in to learn Chinese. Yeah,
that ship has sailed.
Yeah.
That's,
so
being able to be Dashan, that's finished.
Dashan is this Canadian guy who's very popular. Was it 20 years ago?
Very rich.
Is he?
Yeah.
What's he worth?
Dude, I don't know, but he was the face of every single product to teach you English for about 20 years.
Really? Dashan.
Money.
Dashuan Watson? No. Dashan Wang? Who is it? No. Dashan. What would his keywords be? Canada, China, net worth. Let's see what happens here. Warren Regis. Dashan. Mark Henry Roswell. Dashan. Net worth. Doesn't say.
I mean, he's got to be up there.
Why do so many Chinese learners seem to hate Dashan? Good question. I don't know. So this guy's been pretty popular. He's been here for years, though.
He's got to be old by now, yeah.
No idea. He said you can't get rich being a television star in China. I don't know. But he, because he does crosstalk.
Yeah.
Right, and that was his big claim to fame. And Chinese people respect Chinese people who can do crosstalk in Chinese. That is a level of language ability that is very respectable. I mean, if you
Bringing
can't
back vaudeville, yeah.
Is that what it is?
No, crosstalk, yeah. Like Abbott and Costello, basically.
Yeah. See, I guess if you do it in English, it's like witty banter.
Yeah.
But to do it in Chinese and to get all the little.
Well, no, respect. Like with all due respect, like he was, like he came in early, learned the language early.
Yeah.
Profited every single way he could figure out how to, which is good. Like he built, like a business model for himself where there wasn't, like he was it. There wasn't much competition, but like that's, like when I first came to China, if someone had an ounce of Chinese, that qualified you for immediate middle management.
Oh, wow.
It's like, where, like that's, now it's like, oh, you got HSK5. Okay.
And?
Yeah, exactly.
What else can you do? Monkey, right? I mean,
yeah.
Dance for me. Yeah, and I was talking to this girl a couple weeks ago. She's Russian. She was here in 2010, summertime around there. And she was a translator for the film Mongol.
Oh, yeah.
So, because she had spent a year studying Chinese here, and she was Russian, and she could speak English as well. So she was this translator, and she just kind of moved up the ranks of this film production because she was able to speak just enough to get by, sort of thing. But yeah, I guess maybe I'm too late to the Chinese party, but I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't mind studying the language. I don't know whether I can get up to HSK 5, HSK 6. Oh, I'm almost at 5 anyway.
Yeah, as I say, you put the work in. Like it'll get there.
I'm getting tired of it. I'm so tired of studying. It's just such a pain in the ass. Like, in between appointments at work, coming back to the hotel, doing another hour of Chinese.
Well, and it's also like, I don't know if you've experienced it, but like like for me, it's like short bursts of study, and then there's like a huge increase, and then a very long plateau.
Yeah.
Where it seems like I'm putting in a lot of work, and I'm, it's like I don't see that I'm actually improving, and then it's like, okay, take a little break, not too long a break, because like I said, it all falls out of my head, and then like go back to it, and then like another bump up.
I've been pretty good with my consistency, but it's sort of a facade because of our job that allows that consistency. Just because if I had to think about teaching, or if I had a family to worry about, I'm not sure I'd be able to focus on learning the language as it is. It'd be a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
That being the case, I know I have that opportunity. I did not want to be one of those foreigners who'd been here for 15, 20 years and not know the language.
Well, and this is something that, like, I think it's partly, like, quite honestly, I think it's just partly the nature of the language as well, though, because, like, if you were in Spain, for example, even without trying, by now, like, Spanish would have just kind of, like, you'd have learned by osmosis. Like,
Spanish is like English, though.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like, depending on, like, Russian, maybe not, but still, like, I think it would be easier to pick up than, it's like Chinese, like, you don't just pick it up.
No.
You can pick up the lower level, but it's like to actually get to a point where you're, getting anywhere near good requires effort.
And substantial effort. Yeah, like substantial. I wonder what Chinese people would find easy to pick up in terms of language. Like, would they find Japanese easy? That's what they believe, but no one I know has ever said Japanese is an easy language to pick up.
Yeah.
I mean, even for Chinese people, they're like, difficult language. Russian seems to be difficult for Chinese people, whereas I just started studying Russian, and I'm like, this is far easier than studying Chinese. I mean, when I read something in Russian, I'm like, oh, this feels so much easier. It's a relief to read this because it's like, I understand what's being, at least I understand all the letters. I'm not guessing what the characters are anymore. So, I don't know, but what, like, as you said, like, with the Spanish, by now, 15 years in the country, you're probably fluent. 10 years in the country, you're probably fluent. 5 years, you can pick up the newspaper. And if you can't, then you're just not trying at all, sort of thing. But Chinese, I mean, I wasn't able to sit down and read the newspaper until middle of last year, end of last year, basically.
Yeah.
And even now I have to have a dictionary beside me. It's all the same words, though. I've noticed that it's like even worse than your standardized response to a question or something. It's like it's all the same word. They just repeat them in different variations throughout each paragraph.
Yeah. Well, no, it's like quite honestly, like in the States, USA Today is similar. Like they use 2,000 words.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's like,
see, and I never read the USA Today. I mean, why would you?
Well, no one does. But it's like that's the level that they're aimed. Like different newspapers are actually aimed at different education levels, basically, and it's 2,000 words is pretty much what they're working with. Which is it makes it pretty much on par with like Voice of America. Basically, they only use 2,000 words.
But Voice of America is for English learners, isn't it?
It's the CIA propaganda.
Oh, there we go.
Whatever, but yeah, they keep it simple on purpose so that
CIA propaganda. What do you mean? Tell me more.
Well, no, it's it's what it is. Like Voice of America is it goes back to like I don't know, like maybe World War II.
Okay.
And it's broadcast in other countries. Obviously, it's not broadcast in the States because there's no point. But that's that's what it's for, is to broadcast American views on whatever's going on.
So you mean all of this other countries who have similar tools and broadcast their own propaganda, they're just doing what the States is doing?
Well, I think all of the countries are all doing that. It's like I don't think it's new.
This is news to me that it's a CIA propaganda tool. That's kind of funny, actually. I believe it, too.
Yeah. Well, no, but I mean, it's the same thing like BBC World Service. It's like that's, but
it's a news outlet. I mean, BBC is constructed with the idea that it's a news outlet. I don't know.
Yeah.
You're saying it's not?
Read Chomsky.
Okay.
No.
What does he have to say about it?
Actually, he goes into talking about manufacturing consent and how.
Yeah, I have the book. I've never read it.
Yeah, well, I used to use when I taught argument, English 101, 102 kind of classes. That would be the first article that we read was "What Makes Mainstream Media Mainstream" by Chomsky, and it's.
So what does make mainstream media mainstream? I think this is appropriate to talk about.
Well, it's it is what it is. It's the institutions behind the media trying to manufacture consent for the interests that they think are most important to them.
But is that possible today? I mean, social media.
How is it not possible?
I don't know. It just seems that it's so. Then again, we just saw a president basically get booted from office because he was horribly unpopular with the media. The media and him did not get along at all, and the media went all out war on him basically, and he lost. So, but I mean, you just think that in the age of this age that you couldn't do that because there are so many ways to just get your information these days. Like, how can they possibly control all of that?
But who controls the? It's like, I don't want to sound like Denny, but it's like all this information is getting filtered through control mechanisms. Things that they don't like, things that are unpopular, get filtered out. And so especially though when you're looking at like the press, You know, like I don't care what country you're in or who you're working for. You know, it's like, um, you know, the New York Times. If the owners don't like you, they'll shift the editorial board out. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like they did that not that long ago. You know, like that's. Um,
That's how another newspaper gets created.
well, no. Well, the thing is, I mean, that's it's a business,
Yeah.
and they're in the business of um, manufacturing consent, basically. Putting out information, but highlighting the information that they think is important with the slants that they want people to agree with, and the people that read this newspaper tend to have this sort of opinion. The people that read that newspaper tend to have that opinion. Like in Detroit, this is a really good example. The Detroit News and the Detroit Free Press operate under a joint venture agreement because they were both going to go under in the 80s. So they actually are the same paper, but they put out under two different names. And, one is supposedly left wing, one is supposedly right wing, but it's the same organization putting out both papers.
But is it sort of, if you read both of them, you'd sort of see the different slants to it, or what would the result be?
A Venn diagram, basically. Like a lot of overlap, but then like a few op-eds would lean more. I don't even want to say
Conservative?
left, but
Okay.
left or right. I don't know that those words actually mean anything anymore, but
Is that is I don't know. Is that a thing in the United States? It seems to be more of a thing in the United States. The left and the right, the ultra left, ultra right. I mean, Canada, we've always had a multi-party system.
well, I think it's false anyway. I mean, it's like the idea that in the historic sense of it, it's like the left somehow the further left you go, the closer you're getting to Marxist, and it's like well, most of the people that are being called progressives are still pro business. They're not looking to like take over Amazon. They just want Amazon to treat the workers better. That's hardly Marxism. But like, so it's like that discussion doesn't really work, and like what it means to be on the right, it's like I don't even know what that means, because in the States the way that they throw that out, it's you've got social conservatism, religious conservatism, small government conservatism, big business economics, it's like, and all of this is all supposed to be one single entity when to me that sounds like four different factions, really.
Variations of it.
Yeah.
Variations of the same thing.
But whatever. States, good fun.
Is it? And it seems like there's a big split in the States. Like in Canada, you never really ask someone's political affiliation because I don't think it's as big of a business in Canada. But in the States, it's like, well, you must be a Democrat or you must be Republican.
Which is funny. I was thinking about this earlier. I was talking to one of our coworkers actually about the punk rock scene back in the days.
American coworker?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And just like it's like when I was growing up and going to like underage like punk shows, it's like you had kids that were reading Marx and you had kids that were reading Mein Kampf, and like everyone got somehow managed to get along without beating each other up, and it was like whatever, it's like, okay, you have your stupid idea, but that's okay because I have my stupid idea, and that's okay, and we're all gonna have like we can all get along because we like this shitty band.
Were you in that shitty band?
I was in a couple of those shitty bands, but the idea of like being able to just get along, and that's like I don't see that as much anymore. It's like when I do go home and like talk to people, it's like the rhetoric that they use to talk about other people, including people that are like their neighbors, is like really acidic.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah. I can see it on social media like Facebook and Twitter.
I'm just like, you borrow that guy's lawnmower and you're talking about him, like he's like Satan, incarnate, but still you're gonna borrow his lawnmower. It's like what is this?
Yeah, it's I see it mostly on Facebook where people are just you can't say anything.
Yeah.
Or else you're attacked for being one way or another.
Twitter's even worse, man.
Twitter is sort of comical though, and I've found you can't even mute the words because they get around it. What happens is that someone you follow follows. So it's like a secondary or tertiary connection comes into your feed, and you're like, when I said I don't want to see this crap, I don't want to see this crap. I mean, I've started. I used to filter a lot more. Now I've just started following a lot of more accounts that I want to see, like graphic design, science and technology.
Well,
and stuff.
I only do poetry and art.
Mm-hmm.
Period. And it's like, and there's times when I look at it and it's all just like like whatever, like police shooting videos or riot videos, and it's just like, I just want poetry. It's like, is that too much to ask for? Like, if I wanted news, I would actually look at a news site.
Yeah. Are the shootings bad in the state? Like, is there justification behind this? Because I see it only from Facebook.
Well,
or on social media, I should say.
Yeah, I don't. I'm gonna step away from that. No, it's.
But you grew up there. I mean, you'd have more of an understanding of the whole background of it. I mean, and I know that there's arguments for both sides, but as a Canadian, and especially most of my adult life now has been spent overseas.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't grow up in the neighborhood where there was much poverty, so I don't know. Like, this is news to me.
No, like when I was growing up in Detroit, for a couple years in a row, it was like the murder capital.
Yes, I remember Detroit being talked about, and then Winnipeg took it.
Well,
per capita, Toronto's
everyone moved out of Detroit, so that's and then New Orleans, then DC.
Mm-hmm.
But it's same root causes. Affluent neighborhoods don't have the same. They have different social ills. But, it's like, things that race, education, economics, like all of these things together, blah, blah, blah. Other people talk much more smartly about this and have a better handle on it than I do. But, no, it's, there's, there was just another shooting like this morning, like when I read the New York Times, it's like, I think it's Indianapolis, like some guy shot up a FedEx.
Oh, okay. All right.
And you're just like, it's like fifth one, within like a week or 2 weeks.
Right. And so with this this documentary, this trafficked documentary, the last episode is about guns, and they look at the border between the United States and Mexico. To get into the United States, border is secured. To get into Mexico, open. And that's how the guns are going down to Mexico. And this lady, Mariana Van Zeller, I think is her name, she basically says, like, the reason why there's such an influx of people, of illegal immigrants, quote unquote, to the United States is because their countries are no longer safe.
Yeah.
Because the guns are coming down and the cartels are shooting everybody. I mean, it's like, oh, that kind of makes sense. And I mean, what it sounds like is that there is a bit of a gun problem in the States. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess they don't want to change that. In Canada, again, we've never had that issue. Even the farmers are like, I can't have a gun in my truck because it's illegal according to federal law. So I can't even, I don't know, is there much to shoot in Canada? I guess in some parts of the farmland there isn't, not too much. Manitoba and Saskatchewan, a lot of broadacre cropping, so I don't know if you have too many threats there. I don't know. I mean, I didn't grow up there, but or at least I didn't grow up on a farm. But you grew up in Detroit. Detroit has always had this reputation of being a bit rough. I mean, did you live on the mean streets?
Yeah, actually. Yeah. No, it's when I lived there, because my family moved to the suburbs about around the time like I went to high school.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, it's like you never walked anywhere by yourself. Like basic stuff like that. You knew everyone in the neighborhood knew who the gang members were, and basically, you know, you pretend they're not there, they pretend you're not there, and then hopefully no one breaks into your house.
That seems like a very fragile trust.
Well, yeah, I mean there were murders on my block, a lot of break-ins on my block, which is actually surprising because a couple of people in my neighborhood were allegedly tied to the mob.
Right.
Those houses never got hit. Surprise. But all of that seemed very normal when I was growing up. It's not till you actually get out of that and live outside of it where you're like, oh, hold on, that's
breaking and entering is not a normal thing to do.
Well, just not everyone lives like that. You
Right.
know, it's is what it is.
Does that happen here in China? Breaking and entering a lot, because.
Well, it must. They put bars on the windows. I mean, like if they didn't have that, they wouldn't need that. So.
I don't know. I mean, because those are on the Soviet style buildings, like the old ones, right?
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's a.
Well, there's cameras everywhere now.
There are cameras, but is anyone watching? I know. I lost my GoPro a couple months ago, and they couldn't find it. They didn't even have a camera on that street.
They didn't even look.
Oh, they didn't. No, they were just they took one look at me. They're like, "What? You're making a report for this?" They're like, "Okay, we'll make a token report and get out of here."
That was my first week in Beijing when someone stole my bike, and then I went to the local community police station to say someone stole my bike, and the cop was just like, "Welcome to Beijing, kid." It was like, "Is that it?" And he's just like, "Well, what do you want me to do?"
Yeah. Find it? How? And everyone who's bought a bike has a story of a bike getting stolen, and usually they're one of their first two. Usually it's their first bike.
Yeah.
Maybe their second bike as well, and they're usually nice bikes too.
Well, this is like after that, like when I finally did get around, like that bike was a piece of crap anyway, so it's like it wasn't a big loss. But when I finally did break down and get a nice bike, before they had all the share bikes, it's like you would bring it up and put it in the apartment.
Yeah. They park bikes out here.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I would actually bring it into with all of the room that you have in a Beijing shoebox.
Welcome to the shoebox.
Well, I'm surprised. Like I actually had hooks, so that you could hang the bike like over. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorely underutilizing this space. I don't stack anything.
Yeah,
well, it's all stacked on the ground.
Yeah, you could maximize a little bit.
The only other major addition I want in this apartment is a pull-up bar, and I was thinking about putting it in that corner right there. But like a proper one, not one of the ones that goes in the doorway, because that's.
Where do you hang your?
I don't. It that doesn't get used.
Oh, okay. So that's basically an oversized yoga pillow.
Yeah, not even for that. It's just for. I thought it was a different material when I bought it, and it didn't come filled with. It wasn't filled with anything, so I didn't know how to get sand.
By the way, we're talking about a heavy boxing bag.
Which is not a heavy boxing bag at all. It's like, I guess it's for kids. It was priced for kids.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I have a boxing bag that I used to use for kicks. I used to line it up against the wall and then just kick that. But it's no good. I got to get another one. I got to get some sand from Taobao and whatever and fill it up. But I want to get a proper pull-up bar, like with like an actual stand and everything, rather than the doorway one.
Don't they have one outside?
I use it. There's a tree that doubles as a pull-up bar, but that's
okay. Because like my community, like where they have like all that equipment for the old people to use. Like one of them's like
not here.
There's like 2 pull-up bars, one for kids or midgets, and then.
Not in this community.
Okay.
This community doesn't do that.
But there's the today.
Art. Yeah.
Yeah. Like they have. There. Oh, they might not have a pull-up bar though.
Nope, nothing there. There's no workout equipment in this area.
Okay.
Not the closest would you'd have to go across the street.
Yeah, because the old people in the community love it when I ask them to get off the machine so I can use it for a minute.
Yeah.
Machine being a fancy word for what it is.
It's not a machine. You're being generous.
Some there are a couple like the shoulder ones where you're actually using your body weight, even though I don't understand the lever mechanics that they're using. So you're actually lifting what feels like maybe 20% of your body weight, but like the seat goes up and down, but you're actually like pulling that way. Like it's useful. You just have to do 200.
Yeah, I don't know. But a lot of those and this is common in like Soviet countries or not Soviet in communist countries where they have these little parks with this workout equipment basically, but they're rusted.
Yeah.
They are not safe. I mean, some of the new ones, of course, are painted and whatnot and everything, but I don't know. I've never felt that they're very effective, and I don't like working out in front of people.
Well, I was gonna say there's a couple of the machines are actually decent for what they are. Most of them are, like the twirly thing. Like that's for an old person just to keep the range of motion. Like that's not for anyone under the age of 65. I don't think.
Right. Who's serious about lifting and being in shape? Yeah, that's a good point, I guess. And it's for the elders and for the youngers, basically, not the middle aged. Middle age being from like 16 or 13 to 65, 64. Yeah. There's not much room here, but I find with the kettlebells that I have, I've got the 14, 20, and 28, and that is enough. I've only recently started doing get-ups with the 28K, and that has put more bulk on the top end, but it's not easy. It gets heavy. Your listeners living at, fuck, that's heavy. Boy, that's not light. I better not drop this. I don't want to be that guy. In the news today, we found a foreigner with a kettlebell through his head. Don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, well.
Are you still working out quite a bit, or?
Yeah, it's I do with weights. I do low weights, so it's only like 5K, but it's all about slow motion, and it's not just like that. It's like slow circles in time with breathing.
Oh, okay. So you're paying a lot of attention to the breathing then.
And it's also like if you try it, like next time you're in like the hotel or whatever, like try using lighter weights but doing it much slower, and you'll see why I do that.
Is it effective?
Yeah, but it's more for tone than bulk.
Oh yeah, you're not bulking with that.
No.
So then, what's your workout regimen like?
Depends on the day and my mood really, and also depends on whether or not, like if I'm working from home, which is something that I've started doing recently. During the breaks, for example, I might do like 20 basically curls with shoulder presses, and then like 20 just like making circles, like butterfly circles, and then backwards, and then doing that in between the breaks, so that by the end of a work day I've done about 160, 180. Which is that's good to go.
What about lower body?
Lower body, I don't focus too, like I don't do any weights for lower body. Bicycling, walking, some of the yoga that I do uses it, but that's just it's not intentional. It's just how the yoga poses work.
Are you still with an instructor for yoga, or
no? But I've got like a pretty set regimen of things that I do for yoga.
Yeah, I never got into it. I can't. It's too slow for me. I like lifting weights.
It's. I mean, like the thing is, the sets that I do for yoga take 2 to 3 hours. And like I'll do that sometimes, like when we do travel for work, like I'll do that in the hotel, but that's my evening done. It's like
you don't have much time to do anything else.
No, it's like go home, like get to the hotel, eat a little bit, wait about 20 minutes, do yoga, time for bed.
Are you watching anything at that time, or?
Usually in the hotels, I'll be listening to like Balinese percussion music. Actually, like I'm that guy.
Gamelan? Is that
Yeah,
no?
yeah,
Is
yeah,
that
gamelan, yeah.
yeah?
It's like, so I'm the guy, like, when like the guy next to me is like, the hell is that?
What are you doing? What's he doing in there?
Yeah.
What's your favorite gamelan track? The one that goes. I have no idea.
No, they all sound, to me, they all sound very similar, but it's, whatever, it's circular. At Mills College, Lou Harris, percussion god, you can Google him. He taught, yeah, go ahead. Lou Harris, gamelan.
Gamelan. And what does he do?
Well, he's passed now, but he's one of the first guys to bring gamelan into like Western music.
Oh yeah.
And
okay.
taught like tons of people. So at Mills, they actually had the whole gamelan set up, like all, whatever, like 20 odd things, and you could be part of the circle. So like you would have like your one little piece, that connected to everybody else's like 20 pieces, and you had to be paying attention to like all 20 to know when to do your little piece.
Oh geez. Okay.
No, it's like, so it sounds like a mess, but it's
But normally, like a lot of modern Balinese music with the gamelan music, it's just one person playing.
It can be, yeah, but it's much more fun when you've got the whole, shebang.
Yeah, this is Lou Harris or Lou Harrison?
Lou Harrison, yeah.
Yeah, the American Gamelan UCSC Music. Right on. So he's he has a couple CDs. He's one of these guys that would have come to Southeast Asia or Asia a long time ago, and he would have been like one of the pioneers of learning the languages, going native, I guess.
Yeah, not sure about that, but yeah, definitely a musicologist.
Mm-hmm. Which is neat. It's neat stuff, but I mean, it's you gotta focus. You gotta know the language and get to know the people. You can't. I don't know. Can you do that these days? Be a musicologist as well? I guess Google.
I've got friends who do it. Yeah.
Is it the same? YouTube has sort of changed everything. It's opened it up. Everyone can be a musicologist. They can show up and record music. Get a recorder.
Anyone can be everything. Yeah.
Get a GoPro.
Yeah,
Right. I don't know. That was one of the things I wanted to do when I was finishing up my master's degree. Was actually go to Africa and study the djembe with the masters in West Africa, but they wanted money and I had none. It took time, and you had to go basically between November and March, which is when they were living in West Africa, because after that they all moved to Europe because they all had houses there. Yeah, and there's this one guy in Winnipeg who was like one of the few, foreigners who would go to Ghana, study, and then come back and teach in Winnipeg himself. And he says, yeah, they're not there from March until September. They're in France, Spain, London, basically. Yeah. So I never got around to doing it. Still haven't been to Africa at all, sadly. But yeah, I guess interesting gamelan. You don't play the gamelan though, do you?
No.
No. You do play instruments. You're a fellow musician.
Yeah.
I've seen pictures of you on the bass.
I have played bass.
What do you mean you have played? So what are you, one of these multi-talented musicians?
No.
What do you need today? I can do that.
Yeah, if it's simple, I can do that. No, I've started out with guitar when I was like 13, got my first guitar. Mm-hmm. Played bass in a couple bands, drums in a couple bands, cornet very poorly in a couple bands. Melodica was Steve Black.
Yep, I remember that. I wasn't at the show, but I saw the pictures.
Yeah, it's whatever, shaker egg.
So would you consider yourself to be a musician then?
No, but it's I play music. Mm-hmm. I enjoy playing music. I don't think I'm a musician.
So when you say you're playing these couple bands, like who are you playing with?
Friends.
And you're just going up on stage?
No, before, like, before coming to China, like being in a band is easy. It's like
Everyone was in a band.
yeah, well, exactly. It's like, and especially in some of the cities that I lived in, it's like when I lived in Athens, Georgia, for example, literally everyone's in a band. Like the whole town is in a band. It's like if you're not in 3 bands, you're lazy.
Ooh, okay.
Well, no, and like quite honestly, it's like people are just people come over to your house, you play music. It's all just part of hanging out. So it's part of the culture. Like when I lived in Oakland, I lived with 2 musicians, and we were in at least 2 or 3 bands at any given time. I had a drum kit. I became a drummer. I traded back when I was a candle maker. Like I said, I had many jobs.
Of course.
I traded 2 craft candles for a very crappy drum kit and a broken cymbal. And I had that drum kit for a good 15 years, and it went from Georgia to New York to California with me. And when I was in California, there was a guy that was like, look, I got a better drum kit I'll just give you if you promise to throw this one away. And it's like, no, I like this. And he's like, but they sound like wet paper plates. And it's like, yeah, that's
Do you still have the kit?
No.
Where is it now?
I gave it to someone when I left California, because when I came to China, basically I had a suitcase and a carry-on. So it's a...
That's it?
Yeah.
Why didn't you bring anything else? Or you didn't have anything else? Or because you just basically said you moved around the entire United States there.
Yeah, but every time I moved, it was basically what could fit into the car that I had.
Right.
At the time was what went with me. So it's like, the drum all fitted inside the bass drum.
Yeah, okay.
So that didn't take up too much room.
Right. So why were you moving around the States so much?
Well, because you do. Why wouldn't you?
Winnipeg or Canada, all you do is stay in one city, basically.
Yeah, well, this is, I don't know. People from Detroit, if they can, tend to get out. And once you get out, you're just like, oh, okay. Like, I've been here for a while. Let's see what's somewhere else,
I don't know why that's going
I traveled a bit for university, and then after that, different opportunities would present themselves and be like, okay, I'll go do that.
Right. Did you follow the music at all, or was it always like sort of work that made you move? Or it sounds like the music sort of came with you, but you never moved because of any sort of opportunity in that.
No, like I would never switch cities because of a band I was in.
Because of a band, right?
Yeah, it's not like any of the bands I was ever in made money.
What? That's a shock. Not shocking at all. But okay, so you grew up in Detroit, right? Mm-hmm. So then, and you're an '80s baby, and maybe earlier.
Yeah.
But so you would have been part of, or would have seen the Detroit music scene at that time, because Detroit's credited with like electronica basically being born.
Yeah.
And what was it? Isn't it the alien drum beat? There's a break beat.
Yeah.
That's pretty famous, and I thought that came from Detroit. I'm not sure.
A whole bunch of techno comes from Detroit. A lot of music comes from Detroit. I mean,
did you ever get involved in that?
No. There's this one club, St. Andy's, 3 floors, rap in the basement, dance, and then punk at the top. And I was always up at the top. Mm-hmm. So different scenes, same building, different scenes.
Is it still around?
I think it might have just recently closed, but it was there like forever. Like it was there well before I was there, and it was there well after I was there. A lot of other clubs as well. Growing up, there was this place called the Greystone, which was an underage punk club. It's where Black Flag died. It's where the Misfits died. No, literally, it's like that's where they broke up. It's like this you go to Detroit to break up your punk band.
Oh, so like, is it one of those tour stops like over in Detroit? Who's gonna get fired today?
I'm not sure what happened. It's like, don't know the story, but that's, it just seems like that's where
Detroit is the
Yeah,
make or break, or the more
It's just
often the
like,
break.
yeah, we're done. Yeah, this is it. We're done.
Yeah. So then, like Detroit, the very famous scene. I mean, I can't name any names, but I know that it was on. It produced a lot of musicians. Didn't Eminem come from Detroit?
Yep.
Did you ever see some of his earlier stuff, or?
No, but no. He went to high school not far from where I went to high school.
Right.
But, yeah, whatever. Never crossed paths.
Mm-hmm.
No.
But you also weren't in the hip hop scene very much.
Not then.
Was it any good? Would you, from the stuff that you could have heard, would you say like, yeah, no, it's a? Cause you look at Eminem, he's of that caliber, and that usually means that there's like 1,000 or 10,000 bands beneath him, and then underneath that there's another 100,000.
Yeah.
So like there is a weeding out process, filtering process that happens. I mean, it sounds like Detroit was like this playground of creativity in the early '90s.
Well, it's I think it's actually still now. Like the last time I was there, I went to a couple clubs, and it's like there's always an underground.
Mm-hmm.
And no two bands sound alike, which is good.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I don't know, say a place like Beijing, where, like you go to this club and you know exactly what you're gonna get. You're gonna get like 10 bands that all sound exactly like those 10 bands.
How was the Beijing scene? I don't go out very much. I'm such an old man.
I mean, the thing is like there's, like depending on what you want to go listen to, you can, like, everything is here. There used to be a bigger noise scene. I actually kind of like noise.
What's noise? I have a suspicion of it. I know what it is, but
yeah, it is exactly what it says it is. It's just a shit ton of noise with very minimal structure. Depending on how good the person doing it is, it can be orchestral, but more often than not, it's not. So it's just a whole bunch of noise that's up in your face.
Is there a death metal scene in Beijing?
There is.
How big is it?
Pretty big.
Really?
And actually, there's a huge death metal scene in Wuhan.
Yeah, but Wuhan's also, like, I would actually associate Wuhan with more creativity than Beijing.
Yeah.
Beijing doesn't really promote it very well.
I think that's on purpose because I don't think they want the attention.
I suspect it is on purpose. I don't know. I mean,
no, and there's like a huge metal scene here too. Like just straight up, like what you have in your head when you think of metal.
Really?
Yeah.
Next time you go, you got to let me know.
Okay.
How do I find these things though?
There's a WeChat app called what's it called now? China Live. I'll send it to you. They have like all the gigs
right
that are going on.
But how often do these gigs happen?
Like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Right.
Sunday is usually for folk and shoegaze.
Shoegaze. So you're all. I guess
like,
in the States you'd be fucked up on something, but here, you're not.
Yeah, you just be mopey.
Yeah, I got to start work tomorrow, so go. Let's have some shoegaze music.
Yeah.
This is the first I've ever heard of this. I've never heard of it before.
Yeah, no, just whatever, like very slow emo type stuff.
Right.
There's a big, like they call it post-rock scene here, which is basically 20-minute songs that go nowhere with no lyrics.
Right.
Starts off slow, builds in the middle, goes back to soft.
So it's like prog rock?
Shh. That would imply that it's been done before.
Oh, damn. Oh, so they don't know. They don't want to know about that.
Yeah. No, it's all new.
Oh, but it's post-rock. It can't be new. Referencing rock means that it's sort of taking that genre into account, right?
Yeah, well, you would think.
Oh, so how old are these? Are they kids or are they like aged elders like us? Or older?
The bands that I've seen, like 20s.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And you're just like, yeah, this is.
Heard this before.
Yeah, it's like you're a good version of this, but you're exactly this. and it's a formula, and it's okay, but you're good at it, so that's okay too.
In Winnipeg, in my hometown, there's it's not doom metal. What's it called? They have a special word for it, but there's a drop in the metal songs now. So like you associate with like rap or like drum and bass. There's usually a drop of some sort. They've now, is it slam metal? Maybe it's slam metal. Yeah. So apparently these kids, what they'll do, I call them kids, they're 20 years old, but they'll have this drop, just like in a club, and then they'll come right back into it. But one of the guys I was talking to, he's like, yeah, no, these kids are fucking amazing. I mean, this is what YouTube has done to this generation. It's like they can watch someone and then spend the time developing those skills. They're like, I've seen some of the videos and I was like, holy shit, these kids are good. I mean, maybe I just wasn't as focused as they are, but we didn't have YouTube growing up to learn from it at all. You had to go pay someone to teach you what to do.
Yeah.
But you're saying that Beijing actually has a decent music scene.
It actually really, it does. And some of the bands are really good, and most of the bands are not. And
what would be the good bands? Do you know any off the top of your head?
Like the bigger names like Car Sick Cars.
Okay.
They've toured with like Sonic Youth and whatnot. Like for punk bands like Brain Failure are kind of like the granddaddies of the scene. Like they've been at it for like 20 odd years.
Right.
And like the rest of it, like you can, like, if you want to go see punk, for example, there's a School Bar, like on a Friday they'll have.
Is it still open?
Yeah, they reopened. They made it through. I don't know how. But they'll have like 9 bands, and it's like every band has like a 30-minute set, and it's you get what you're getting.
Is it all the same? Is this like those bands they all sound the same?
To me, they sound very similar. They think they sound very different. Depending. But there's like a lot of other stuff too. Like there's Inner Mongolian type. Rock would be the wrong word for it, but it's they use like the horse head fiddle and Mongolian drums, but in throat singing and but with a 4/4 for some reason, and it's like it all works somehow, so there's a lot of like other stuff as well, so it's like if you keep your eyes out, looking for it, like you might actually find stuff that you wouldn't see anywhere else, like where are you going to see that?
Yeah, so you're saying it's not all Jay Cho then?
No, amazingly.
Jay Cho, our most famous Chinese musician ever.
Yeah, no, there is a hip hop scene here, and some of it, again, like some of it is good, a lot of it is not, and I don't know what they're saying. And what's interesting, actually, this is something. When I went and saw Jackson while he was still here.
Yeah, R.I.P. Jackson.
Yeah, R.I.P. The band that was before him were really good, and the people I was with, I was like, what are they singing about? And it was like, we have no idea. They use local dialect so that they don't get in trouble.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, exactly. So like a lot of like the political hip hop or the hardcore hip hop are actually, they're using local dialects so that no one has any idea of what they're actually.
I was wondering what they would actually do, like what they would sing about, because in the States, your rap and your hip hop is a lot of about the poverty and the shit they went through, and then bitches and
cash money.
Yeah, cash money. That sort of lifestyle, but a lot of gang references, guns all over the place, distrust of the police. Would they be singing about similar things here? I don't know.
I know that the rap that gets played on the radio, because I actually went online and found the lyrics and then spent time to actually look at, it was like one of the songs was just about like how much they love their mother.
Right. Who was that by?
I forget. Just some crappy song. But you're just like, okay. And like another one was all about It's like egg fried rice, you know, and you're just like, Jesus, how is this a rap song?
So it's like it's been watered down that much.
Well, this is what gets radio play though,
Right.
you know, so it's, yeah. For my social credit score, we don't need to talk about this, but yeah.
And I guess the other question I have about the metal bands is like, is in the West, as far west as like Finland, even Russia, I guess would have a metal scene, but not too much. Finland, like the Scandinavian countries, but so your black metal, your death metal, heavy metal, it's all basically anti-Christian, or anti-Catholic Church, I should say. It's against, and a lot of it does have a lot of Norse mythology, so it's not always Satan or evil. It's just it's a response to the overbearance of the Catholic Church in parts of the world. And so I still wonder, like, what would they do here in China? Because although the church is basically the archbishops here, the cardinals here are appointed by Beijing.
I don't think the you know, like the kids playing that have any clue or interest in that.
so they're not going. God is. They're not calling down God's name.
No, you know, like yeah, I have no idea what they're singing about anyway. But you know, it's the form of it is 100% death metal. Like they follow the form.
Right.
Whatever is filling that form, I have no idea.
I'd be interested to know.
Yeah, but as far as like the metal bands, like one of I don't think they're a band anymore, but like just to give you an idea, like I knew this guitar player, and he was in a band called China, but the actual characters were Chai like demolish, and the Na was like let's do it. So it's, you know, basically like let's go demolish everything, and that was kind of their starting point.
Right. Are they not around anymore, or where are they now?
I don't know. I haven't seen them play out, so they probably broke up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but yeah, it's like they'll all be in like different bands anyway.
It sounds like you've spent enough time in school bar and these different bars. Do these kids have dreams of being international touring musicians? Like in the West, you know, if you're in a band, like, we're going to be the next big, you know, the Beatles or the next Guns N' Roses or Metallica. Now, do they have that attitude in China?
No, because it's more so than, you know, like the North America. You know, it's like everything that you're looking at that's popular is manufactured, and they're all coming through the academies. They're all coming through, you know, these agents and these companies. You know, so yeah, no, they.
What about like in the bars? But would the bars be hosting those bands as well, like the?
Some of in Hohai, like some of.
Off of the main drag, it wouldn't be the main drag.
No. In the main area, some of the bars there are actually owned by the same production company that runs like Voice of China or those other kinds of, you know, so they're using that kind of as like the farm system to see if you're good enough to get onto Voice of China, which is exactly what it sounds like for the people that aren't in China.
Similar to Voice of America, except the Chinese characteristics, or?
Well, it's just, you know, the talent show, like American Idol.
Oh, I see.
Like
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so they don't have that same sort of anarchistic. You know, I'm going to take over. I'm going to be the number one man. It's like, well, but if you're the number one man, then you become what you're trying to fight against, man.
No, but in Hohai, for example, there's a small bar called Reggae Bar, where the house band changed, but like that house band ended up. They were all from like South America somewhere, and they were playing covers, which was a shame, but that's. You know, that's what you do when you're in Hohai. You play songs people know.
Yeah.
But they ended up being the house band at the Blue Note, which is kind of cool. But I don't know that the Blue Note reopened since COVID.
Where was Blue Note?
Right, Tiananmen, basically. Like really the south end of Tiananmen.
Okay.
But it's the big jazz club. it's actually the Blue Note in New York owns the Blue Note in Beijing,
Oh, really?
and the same acts come through, so you actually can see proper jazz.
Oh, wow. I thought there's one in Hohai that there's a jazz bar there. I'm not sure if that one opened again.
There's actually a couple jazz bars. There's a couple jazz bars around here. Modernista has jazz on Sunday nights, and half the time it's like small ensembles from Beijing made up of like whatever, like different people, but like sometimes they get acts in from Japan and Korea that are I don't want to use the word proper because it makes it sound like the other acts aren't proper, but
they're touring musicians.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they've made the jump.
Yeah.
That's I haven't got into the jazz scene. I'm so far removed from the music scene here in Beijing. Have you played with any of these bands?
No. No, it's the only like I hadn't played forever until I played with Steve Black.
Oh, okay. Right.
Like I play at home all the time. Like I play daily, but for me, like playing in bands is more about the friendship aspect of it. It's like I equate playing in a band with like sitting on a porch.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where I'm at with that. It's like I'm past the point of worrying about getting a record deal. It's like I've been lucky enough to be on a couple of albums. Like whatever.
Which ones? Anything you can name?
Well, I was the last thing that came out was Mendoza Line, and that was 20. Like they're just reissuing the 20-year anniversary of this thing, and it's like, oh god, it's been 20 years. No, and some other stuff from before that, but like nothing that you can actually point to because none of it's on Apple Music or
YouTube. Nothing on YouTube. Well, if they're releasing it, they're going to pop it up there now.
Well, Mendoza Line's on. You can find that. Like that's easy enough.
What's Mendoza? How you spell that? Mendoza Line.
Yeah.
Line.
Yep.
Mendoza Line.
The Mendoza Line.
The Mendoza Line. Let's see if it comes through. Who knows? Maybe the internet's died already. So this is one of these bands that you played with then.
Yeah, I played with. I wasn't ever part of it, but I'm friends with all of them. They came out of Athens, Georgia, via Washington D.C. and then New York, as you do.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I played with them a little bit. Wrote a song with Pete because he was my downstairs neighbor in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
So we wrote a song one night while we were hanging out.
What was the song about?
Moving on from a bad relationship.
So original.
As you do, No, but yeah. No, but again though, I mean, this is he was my downstairs neighbor, and it's all just kind of like I'm sitting in his living room and we're just like playing around. It's like that's for me. That's how music should happen. When I lived in Oakland. In one of the warehouses, we used to have Thursday night people would come over, and however many people, and we'd all just like play. It was mostly avant-garde / classical because that was the people I was hanging out with.
Yeah.
We would do that, and that was it wasn't for recording. It wasn't for anything. It was just something to do on a Thursday night,
Well, it sounds like more like an open jam session than anything else.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we would play. There would be a core of us who played enough together, so it's like some of the stuff had structure.
Yeah.
Ish. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. The other ones that show up is like, do you know what you're doing? That's just fine. Just follow me, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think I never really went to the jam sessions. I was never one of those guys to show up to those.
Well, no, but it's it's just fun. Like we could like sit here and it would be like, okay, I'm going to list like there'll be whatever like 15 people, and it's like I'm going to listen to you, and then I am going to play the opposite of whatever you're playing.
Right.
And then someone else would be listening to me, and it's like whatever, and it's just like an exercise in musicianship. Like half the time it would be like stuff that you would never actually want to listen to, but it's, completely fun to play.
Yeah.
Or, other places I'd lived, it'd be like five guys with like a guitar and a tambourine, and you just, plucking away, like.
Does that stuff happen here in Beijing too, like these jam sessions?
Not that I've been invited to.
Maybe you're just not being invited to it.
Oh no, it's
You'd probably know more about it than most other people.
I'm not, but I'm not looking for that either.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm sure if I made half an effort, I could get, maybe 4 people into my living room. I think I could fit 4.
How big is your apartment? 50, just as big? 54 square meters?
A little bit bigger than this.
Oh, well then, fine then. How much are you paying for rent?
57. I've got a proper bedroom though.
How are you paying less than I'm paying? Well, I guess my area is
COVID.
Different. Oh, that's why. Yeah.
Yeah.
My landlord, she
signed a 2-year lease.
Oh, that's good. Did you pay all at once or
no?
No, so you're paying every 3 months or every 6 months.
I pay every 6, and when my year comes up, I'm actually just going to give them the whole year because I have it, and I don't want them to have any trouble with me.
Yeah.
I'm a good tenant.
I go every 3 months, and my landlord 2 years ago shifted the contract from 12 months to 9 months and put the rent up to 7,000. And I didn't realize this at that time. I was like, and that actually bothers me because my work contract ends in October, November.
Right.
And so now my apartment contract ends at the end of August, but my work contract doesn't end till the end of October. So now I don't know if this year I'll ask for a 15-month contract.
Well, do you deal directly with your landlord or do you go through a company?
No. This was interesting. I didn't clue into this until a year after I got through. So I went through MyTN, which is the agency, and they found me an agent who is working for the landlord. But the agent is like, she only deals with few clients.
Right.
Like, so she only deals with him and maybe 1 or 2 she might have. She actually lives in Wangjing, rent-free in one of her family's apartments or something like that. But she she also sells, she's part of this Rainbow company, Rainbow vacuum cleaners. Have you heard of these?
No.
It's an American company. They're horribly expensive. They're these water vacuums, right? So like you come in, you have this really fancy contraption that sucks out all the dust mites, and if you ask the guy to come over and do a demonstration, he'll clean everything for you. But you have to listen to this guy going on for an hour about how filthy your apartment is and why you need this vacuum cleaner. And it was gross. Like, he vacuumed the bed. I was like, oh, that is kind of gross, isn't it? I mean, the bed's not new either.
Right.
But he was cleaning everything, showed me everything. So she used to sell those vacuum cleaners or get some sort of commission from it. But I guess COVID has cut that down quite a bit. And so I'm not sure if she has another job that brings in any more other cash. But yeah. So now my contract, and end of August, I only pay $68 now. And this is such a typical Beijing conversation. Oh, where do you live? How big? How much do you pay?
Well, it's amazing. Like I live just maybe 5 blocks away, and I'm in
you're south of the main street.
I'm in a different rent district than you are.
I've looked at those apartments. I was like, I'm not living here.
Yeah.
Nope. What sort of elevator do you have? Is it like mine here? Like there's 2, 1 on each side, and
there's 4.
Right. How many work?
3.
How many do you want to touch?
They
are horrible. I know, because I was looking in that area that you live, and it really was one of those things. I'm like, there's no guards there, I guess. Like, we have guards.
Actually, we have guards. They don't do much.
Right.
Song Jin Hui, because I talked to him.
Yeah.
Nice guy. I don't know what he does.
No, and he doesn't know what he does either. He's like, I don't know. I was told to show up.
Well, at the beginning, he used to make me show him my paper that showed that I belonged there because I was the one.
Because he didn't know you.
I stuck out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, letting in the Kwai D guy and then stopping me, and you're like, I'm the guy who belongs here.
Are there many foreigners in your compound?
Not many. Because I live in like the older blocks, but if you go like a couple blocks that way, they're all nicer and newer, and more foreigners live there.
Yeah.
Like.
And they cost more.
Yeah, it's one of our colleagues lives close to me.
Yeah.
In that same sort of complex, but mainly the other foreigners that are there are students who go to the whatever university that's just over here.
Okay.
Like Gongye something something.
Yeah.
Some industrial institute, whatever. I don't know its English name.
No idea. But I've noticed that there's fewer foreigners around my neighborhood now since COVID, basically.
Yeah.
And some of them are only starting to return now, actually, after being out of the country for the last year and a half.
It's like, is my stuff still here?
Yeah. And this is not a place that you really want to be paying for if you're not living here.
Yeah.
I don't even like paying for it here, but I was a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to a guy in Winnipeg, and he's like, rent downtown Winnipeg would be 1,200 Canadian, 1,100 Canadian, 1,200 Canadian, which is times that by 5. So what you get for renminbi.
Yeah.
So that's what, 65 or something?
Yeah.
6,000 around there. So here is what, 68, and I think 68 is on the cheap end, because it goes up after that. Your apartment's fully furnished and everything. Yeah. Newer stuff or older stuff?
Half of it's IKEA. The bed is old.
So it's new.
Ish, but it's IKEA, so it's it's gonna fall apart.
Yeah.
No offense if my landlords see this, they actually speak
Hope
English.
not. That chair is IKEA.
Well, no.
This is too.
But I mean, no. The thing is it's actually nice though. It's the flooring is nice. It's before they rented it out to me, before they bought it, because it's a fairly young couple, and they bought this as like, one's a lawyer, the other guy works at TikTok, basically. Okay. So they're young, they have some money, and they bought this as an investment. I think I'm their first tenant, and before me was obviously a family that had a baby.
Right.
Because like my bathroom sink is one of those sinks that is also like you can wash the baby with a shower kind of thing, and you're like, okay, and all the locks are baby, like everything is baby-proof locked.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, but it's nice because a family actually used to live there before, so like the floor tile is actually ceramic. It's not, like it's okay.
It's not concrete.
Yeah.
Okay. Mine's wood.
Yours is it looks like it's actual wood.
It might be. It's nice. It's
like actually... this is when I was looking down, I was actually surprised because I thought it would just be like white bathroom tile.
God no! I've looked at some of those. I'm like, I can't. No, I don't want to live in an institution just yet.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a few more years before I go there. I think there was
Easy to clean though.
Yes, and if you break one, you can get them easily replaced, because I got to be careful when I'm doing kettlebell swings. I don't want to drop them, because if I dent this thing, it's a bit more expensive to replace. There used to be a mother and a child living here, as you can tell. There's some pictures and some decorations.
I wasn't going to ask if those were yours.
Those are not. I have this thing about whenever I move into an apartment, I kind of want to keep it as same as possible, so that when I leave, it's like I was never there. But at the same time, I kind of like... I don't know why I never really personalize anything. Everything that's personalized is fit on top of what's already there. So I've got like designs on the wall by the doorway. I've got these pictures. Is that Marilyn Monroe? Or who is that? Okay, there's a few famous actors and actresses there. And then I've got these like baby decorations above my bed. And then I think on the floor somewhere around the... But yeah, you can tell that there was a child of some sort living here with his or her mother. But I just never... I actually didn't even notice, but that's mostly because of the nature of our job. When I moved into this apartment, that night, I remember I was having a celebratory bottle of vodka, and I had finally got my stuff to the apartment after paying a couple more nights at the hotel because I wasn't in town,
Right.
and so I was given the 1 month free, and then I had to stay a couple more nights because I was called out
Right.
for like 3 extra days. I got in and I gave the taxi driver the address, and he dropped me off by the Today Art Museum.
Right.
And so this was like, I'm sitting in here in this district and going, fuck, and it's 11 p.m., 10 p.m. or something like that. And I have all the stuff, which I was not of the one suitcase mentality.
Yeah.
I had several. And I had to leave half of my luggage at the Today Art Museum. And I was like, is this going to get stolen? No one touched it. I left half of it there. I came here, dropped off the first half, went back, got it, and I was like,
amazing.
Yeah, but I would never do that in Canada. Never.
No.
I mean, nowhere. I would not do that. Ukraine wouldn't have done that. Here, though, it's like, you know what? I don't think people noticed. I think they're all looking at their phone. Yeah. I think this is the one safety thing that's been overlooked about that. Yeah, it is a safety issue for whoever's doing it, but no one's paying attention. I mean, you can be walking down the street naked, basically, and people are like, oh, what just happened? Whatever. Back to TikTok, back to Douyin, back to WeChat.
No, yeah, I mean, you see that a lot. Well, not that aspect of it, but like the leaving the bags thing. Like I see that like a lot in airports and train stations. You know, like, because like when I first came over, it freaked me out because like in the States they would
jump you.
Well, the bomb squad would blow your bag up.
Yeah.
And then, you'd have to be explaining, to, the feds why you left your bag.
Yeah. So what are you trying to do here?
Yeah.
Are you a terrorist?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like I used to get freaked out by that. It's like, where someone would just like sit their bag and then like go get a cup of coffee like halfway across the train station.
Take a piss. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see people leaving their bags too much here in Beijing, but I mean, we haven't been taking trains lately at all. The one time I left my bags unattended in London through Heathrow, that was a bad idea, but I had to pee so bad, and I couldn't carry it all because I had a couple backpacks going back to Canada, and the guy, and the plane was basically boarded. I'm like, no, I can't hold it until after takeoff. I gotta go. And so this guy comes into the bathroom. He's like, is anyone in here? I'm like, yeah. He's like, those your bags outside? I'm like, yep. He's like, bad idea, don't you think? I'm like, yep. Couldn't hold it, though. He's waiting outside for me. He's like, yeah, don't ever do that again. I'm like, I'm sorry. I couldn't do both. I had to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's kind of sketchy to do that. But China it's not unsafe. Then again, living in Beijing, I have a very skewed perception of what China, quote unquote, China is. Beijing is a safe city for what it's worth. Aside from the cameras.
Every city that we've gone to, I've walked around at like 2-3 in the morning, and I have never once felt like I was gonna get jumped.
Yeah.
Whereas, almost every single city in the States.
Oh, the States.
At 2 in the morning, it's like if you're out alone, people are wondering like,
how stupid are you?
Yeah, it's like, well, either you're packing or you're real ignorant.
Yeah.
I remember, like in my neighborhood, same guy who was my downstairs neighbor in Brooklyn. His band was touring through California, and he came to visit me in Oakland. And the taxi dropped him off at 2 corners down from where I'm at. And, the taxi was just like, good luck.
Oh, jeez.
and this is like the first thing that my friend said to me. He's just like, my first thought was, I'm going to die here.
Jeez.
And you're just like, it's broad daylight.
So where was this?
Oakland.
Is it that unsafe there?
Yeah.
Wow.
Parts of it are where millionaires live, and then the other parts of it are, where Tupac came from.
Right. Okay. I remember first times I met another American while traveling. He was from New Jersey, but he lived in New York. And I remember telling him, like, yeah, I'd be so scared to go to New York. I wouldn't want to get on the wrong bus and end up in the wrong end of town. He's like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You'd have to know where to go to get into the wrong part of town.
Well, this is, and the thing is like where I lived in, I lived on the west side and then the east side, in neighborhoods that, people would think are unsafe. And quite honestly, it's like, you know, after you've been there for like 3 weeks, you know, like people know you. It's a neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like
Is it still unsafe though?
I at night I would still walk with someone else to the corner shop.
Right.
You know, so it's like why press your luck
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. But like you know, yeah, like during the day, no problem.
They're all sleeping. Everyone's indoors
Well, no,
playing video games.
no, it's you know like whatever. You know, it's just you know, is
Yeah.
what it is.
I guess, and this, I was thinking about like your comment about going somewhere else where the opportunities are. I was even thinking like traveling. I think China has sort of disarmed me in that sort of ability to travel. Like I still kind of distrust a lot of people, but it's not like a distrust. Yeah, I do distrust people. It's just that I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
You're probably trying to scam me. I don't trust what you're trying to do. I don't think you're going to knife me or shoot me, but I mean, then again, when I see the guys with gun like military,
Yeah.
then I'd be like, and that suspicion has gone up more recently, especially since I have a beard. They sort of look at you, and go, are you of
Yeah.
those people? And I go, no, I'm not. I'm Canadian. And they go, well,
The
do you have your
people with the
passport?
beard? What do we
People,
have?
oh yeah, but the certain people who with beards and certain faiths that are sort of I guess being targeted in some way, but because I can look Muslim, I guess. If out of all the people around, if everyone else doesn't have a beard and I have a beard, they're like,
Yeah.
maybe we have to check. So, but other than that, like if it's away from the military, and I specifically like in Tiananmen, around Tiananmen, I do notice that the guards do look at me a little bit more than if they look at anybody else around that area. But generally speaking, going out at 2:00, riding your share bike home at 2:00 in the morning, I mean,
not a problem.
your biggest concern is the traffic and just making sure that you're vigilant.
Don't
Or
get hit by the delivery guy.
the co-ID guys. Yeah, because they're not trying to get you. They have a delivery to make and they get paid per delivery. And they don't have time to watch out for a foreigner who's
Well, they
stumbling
get
on
fined if they're late.
Do they?
Yeah.
How much is the fine?
I think it's more than what they would make for the delivery.
Oh, that's dumb.
Yeah.
Wow. And how much do they get paid per delivery?
I think it depends on which company you work with.
Well, there's Ulama,
Meituan. There's a couple others.
Sherpa. Sherpas. And there's another big one. Oh, I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know. I use Ulama because I know how to use the app.
Yeah. What do you normally get delivered?
What was the last thing I had delivered? Probably pizza.
From where?
Where do I get pizza? Like I think last one was like Crow's Nest maybe.
Oh, I had that. It wasn't very good.
No.
The one here just over.
Yeah, I was gonna say like sometimes like there's loads of pizza places.
Really? This is news to me. I'm if I need a pizza, if it's not QMX half price,
yeah,
I bite the bullet and I go to Great Leap and I just get one of their pizzas. I'm like, I don't want to pay 100 kwai for substandard pizza or Annie's. Annie's and
I was gonna say Annie's.
Yeah, that one's pretty good. So, but yeah, those Kwai guys. I just got a new fridge. Speaking of like old furnishings in the apartment, I guess the other one had been broken for a while. It was very noisy.
Yeah.
It would turn on every 20 minutes and go for 40 minutes, but it was loud. I had to shut it off at night. I couldn't sleep with the thing on. It was just that loud. And it wasn't disturbingly loud, but when it was off, you would know that it was off.
Right.
And you would fear when it would start again, because then you're like, oh, it's like that ring in the back of your mind. It just drills into your brain. The guy who dropped it off was actually the guy who took the old fridge. And then the guy who dropped off the new fridge, it's kind of like, do you guys just want 10 minutes? You want to take a shower? I'll give you the towels and new clothes. But it's like, those guys work. They basically sleep on their motorbikes.
Yep.
But they make about $15,000 a month, I think. They can. They bust their balls to work. I'm impressed.
Yeah.
You don't see that attitude by too many foreigners, I'm not going to lie. No. But they're also not a lot of non-Beijingers. They're all from usually Anhui province is where they normally come from. And then they come to the big city to...
A few from Henan, but yeah.
Yeah. But they are the working class people. They know where they are in life.
Yeah.
And they are going to make their money here in Beijing. And they do, but they work for it a lot. I don't know. Have you ever talked to those guys before?
No, but I've read like the Spittoon folk. One of the things they do is like a Studs Terkel kind of thing where they go and like they talk to a normal person, like a non expat person and just ask them about their lives. And like the last time was talking to a delivery guy, and he was from like I forget, like Hebei or Henan, like one of the provinces that are near here.
Yeah.
But he's like, I was working in the steel factory in my hometown making no money, and I was going to die young, and my wife and my kids, blah, blah, blah. So I came to Beijing to get this great job delivering, but, it's like this great job actually sucks, and, here's all the ways that I get chiseled, and, whatever, like delivering in like a hailstorm, and I'm like 2 minutes late, and the people complain, and then I get docked more than I get paid for the delivery, and, he's basically like, Beijing has completely ruined my life. I've wasted my life here. I hate everybody.
Not the advertisement that the city wants to put out, I guess.
Well, no, yeah, exactly. It's like, not harmonious.
No, and I think they also get charged that Hive box. I don't know if you have that in your compound, but we have this, which is a phenomenal delivery system. But they get docked for that. I think they have to pay for it. Like the person getting it delivered doesn't. But the Kuwaiti people have to.
Oh, see, it's in my building, there's a flower shop at the bottom that handle deliveries. And depending on which company it is, for example, if it's Jingdong, I don't pay for it. But if it's, some other thing, then I have to pay for it.
Yeah.
And like whatever, it's like 1 kwai.
Ooh, 1 kwai. Yeah, 1 kwai for us is... For a lot of people in this area is nothing,
well,
but for the Kuwaiti guys, it's like...
That said, I was actually talking to one of our coworkers yesterday. Was it yesterday? Some point this week. It was yesterday, and he was talking to like the delivery guy, and he's like, just leave it outside the door, it's okay. And it's like, why don't you tell him to put it in the box? And he's like, I don't want to pay a kwai. And you're like, that's a millisecond of your work time.
Yeah. Could you even calculate how long it took you to make that 1 kwai? Yeah, I kind of sympathize because it's like even though it's like 1 kwai would be 20 cents Canadian.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just kind of like on principle. You don't want to pay it if you don't have to.
Well, I'm just it's like, so you're gonna risk someone like stealing your crap because it's gonna sit outside your door all afternoon.
Yeah.
Because you can't find 15 cents in your pocket. Like, that's...
My compound has been pretty good. I have no problem telling them just leave it at the door. No one seems to... Again, going back to like no one notices anything.
Yeah.
I've met... the only neighbor I talk to, there's a girl who lives at the end of the hall, and she lives in one of the rooms there. She's the only one I talk to regularly, every couple of weeks. The girl across the hallway, she runs.
Yeah. I
see her every now and then. Everybody else, no idea. I mean, I know I've met them off and on, but no one's the only other people that would walk around here are the Kuwaiti guys.
Yeah.
The Elama guys, the food delivery guys would be the biggest threat to stealing anything. But they're in too much of a rush, and they don't want to carry anything more than they have to.
And they're on camera. Or they think they're on camera.
In the elevator, yeah. The funny thing, though, with this is that I've never had problems getting deliveries to my place, but I feel sorry for everybody else who has a similar address because I get them.
Yeah.
And those guys, finally, last week, the guy came back and he picked up a parcel. He dropped off 2 days before. He's like, oh, this was wrong parcel. I'm like, no shit.
Yeah.
Did you not look? Like, I looked at it right away. I'm like, first of all, not my phone number, not my name, man, that's not my address. But, well... and sometimes I'm nice enough just to leave it outside
Yeah.
for them because they inevitably have to come back and get it. But I've never kept anything that cause I don't need any more.
Yeah.
I don't want any more junk. I don't want to know what these people are buying. To tell you the truth, I don't care. It's probably just I don't know
Garbage.
garbage. Yeah, basically that you probably don't have water because you can't go outside to get water yourself. Yeah. But we actually touched on your poetry a little bit, but not too much. So, is this what you do outside of work that you sort of justify your life in Beijing with, or how does this work with your poetry?
Do I need to justify my life in Beijing?
I don't know. Do you? I mean, you've been here
Yeah.
for 15,
Yeah.
10 years already.
I don't think so. No, poetry is something that I've done for a long time. Yeah, it's I've started doing it a little bit more seriously, I guess. Not that I wasn't serious before, but like I've been working on the publication
Right.
side of it more recently, partly because I'm looking at a potential exit at some point.
Yeah. Welcome to the
And-
club, expat foreigner.
Well, no, but it's for the kind of work that I'm looking for. Having recent publications on the CV would not be a bad idea.
Right.
The same reason that I'm doing a whole bunch of professional development classes that I'm not that interested in.
What sort of professional development?
But with the poetry, like I've found the Spittoon people.
Right.
And I actually like their approach because it's community. Some of the scenes that I've been part of in the States were more community based than others.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like there's no money in it, so I don't understand why people feel like it's a. No, honestly, it's like in some areas, man, it's like it's a cutthroat, and they all are like really bitchy to each other, and like and you're just like what. It's like you can write your bad poetry, I'll write my bad poetry, and it's like what's the problem?
So what do you normally write about with your poetry?
Different stuff. Actually, I have a project now that I like a lot called Model Answers.
Okay.
I've published a few of them, and it's an exercise in negative cohesion.
What does this mean?
So with standardized tests, like the SAT, for example, where you have to write a response to a prompt like education, for example. So I'm writing paragraphs, and the beginning of the paragraph and the end of the paragraph don't connect, but every step of the way should connect, so that with each new element, like there's a connection here, but then the next element is connected to this element, but not necessarily to the first thing, so that by the end, it's all connected, but it's not coherent. Like it doesn't cohere as an argument. For example, like a piece that just got published in a journal called Rat's Ass Review. Awesome name. It starts out with a VPN. Then it goes to Tijuana donkey shows.
Right.
Then it goes to 2.5 Men. Then it goes to why the internet should be all watched over by our loving lords. And to how censorship stops radical extremism. And so you go from Tijuana Donkey Show to IEDs.
Right. So what kind of words are you using in your poetry? Are these like big, long, extended words, or
No. This actually for that particular project, it's like I'm trying to keep it relatively simple. But that's depending on the project. Like I write different things. It's like I also can write. Like I'm doing another project called A Country Funeral, which is about what it says it is. And with that, what I'm doing is I have a book on different poetic forms. And so I'm going through the different poetic forms, and writing formal poetry around a single country funeral. So it's like, it's going to end up being about 50 views of the exact same event using 50 different set forms.
Right.
And, that's more of an exercise than the other thing. Like, the other thing's much more fun. But, but it's, it's a project, so it's mostly what I do are projects. Like, a lot of poets write single poems.
Yeah.
And then they put, like 60 of them together and call it a book. And I wish I could do that, but that's not how my mind works.
So how long would your poems be?
Well, it depends on the project. Like, I used to have a project where I would take college blue books.
Yeah.
Like, what I'm talking about, right? Like for essay writing.
Right, like the little notebooks that they had.
Yeah. They'd all be like 8 pages, like however big. And one blue book would be one poem.
Okay.
But the thing that I'm doing with model answers, like everything's, probably between like 50 and 75 words.
Okay.
A lot of times it just depends on the size paper that I'm using, because I don't write on a computer.
Yeah, it'd be tough.
Poetry I don't write on a computer. Fiction I write on a computer, but like poetry I don't.
Yeah.
So it's honestly like half the time it'll depend on the notebook, like how many pages it has, how big the pages are.
Do you look for specific notebooks?
I've got like 50 notebooks at home, so
right.
And
where do you draw your inspiration for these things?
It depends. Honestly, the country funeral.
Country funeral, where?
Well, that was about.
Was that America?
Well, no, that was about my mom's funeral, and it was in the very rural area of Missouri. It was a very, very country type funeral, but it's not biographical. Like, that's.
Mm-hmm.
That's the image, and then everything is around the image. Like, it's not. Like, I don't write about my life because. Who cares? No, quite honestly, like, I know like a lot of poets do that, and if you go to any of the poetry readings, it's like, a lot of it is, just about like the person's life. Like
broken hearts.
A lot of that too, but it's and I get that, and that's fine, but that's not what I read, doing. And it's not what I write.
Yeah. So what sort of poetry do you read?
At the moment, like, what am I reading now? I'm rereading Keats.
God.
No,
okay.
and I'm going to say, and this is not cool, and I'll put, it's like, if any poet he is such a bore. Oh my God, I don't know how, like, I'm a third through, this collection that I got at BFSU. It was like 20 quiets. Like, okay, I'll buy it because it's been a while since I've read some, and I'm reading it, and it's like, God, just shut up already.
Jeez.
Now, I like poets that I go back to. Let's like poets that I actually reread. I like Carl Sandburg.
Mm-hmm.
You might not know who he is, but he's an American. I'm not sure if he's actually out of Chicago, but spent a whole lot of time in Chicago, taught at Chicago, wrote working class poetry in the early 1900s, like 1920s, 1930s. Actually played folk music. He played banjo and sang terribly. And it's funny because his banjo playing is out of time with his singing. It's beautiful.
Is that on purpose, or is it because he's not good at one of them?
No, I think that's actually just his style.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, I like him just because it's working, it's, I don't think he's working class, but the poetry deals a lot with the working class, and, it's not just about, rich people having rich lives and, tea parties and whatnot, whatever
right.
rich people do. I'm sure they do something.
What are some other influences?
I like there's a guy, John Berryman, who wrote something called Dream Songs in the '60s, and it's basically he was a raging alcoholic before he killed himself. Um, and
Okay.
And
how old was he when he killed himself? That's such a terrible question to ask.
50s, maybe early 60s.
Right.
But he made this character called Mr. Bones. Unfortunately, a blackface character.
Right.
But Mr. Bones he has sense, and Drunk Henry, who is his
persona, I guess.
Yeah, persona. Has no sense, and it's they're all sonnets, but you don't know they're sonnets because they seem like they're written extremely sloppy.
Right.
Like, it actually took me maybe the second or third read to realize that they were all sonnets, and it's like, hold on, it's like this guy was actually doing something here. Like, it's like, so like I find that interesting.
It sounds like he's writing about himself, though.
Yeah, very much confessional type stuff, but his life was so shattered and messed up that it's actually, it's like car wreck interesting.
Why? What was going on in his life?
Well,
he was a raging alcoholic, but why was he drinking so much?
Well, I don't know.
Oh.
I don't care enough to know about his biography. It just, it comes out, in the art that he made.
Yeah.
And then there's like a lot of more process kind of poetry, like from the late 20th century, early part of this century, where people are actually looking at like linguistics and how all that's working, and then like playing with that. I find that interesting. I know most people find it dull as dirt.
What do you mean playing with linguistics? What are they doing?
Well, okay, so like in the 1980s, there was a school called the Language Poets, and that's like one guy. One of the big names is Ron Silliman. He had like the biggest poetry blog forever. Like, he was one of the first guys to start blogging about poetry, actually. Like, one piece that he does is he's using the Fibonacci series.
Oh God, jeez. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, that's like right there. Like that's the structure, and then it just keeps repeating on itself over and over.
How is he using the Fibonacci sequence?
So, like, can't remember if it's syllables or words, but like one syllable, 3 syllables, 5 syllables, 7 syllables, and then it just keeps going, and it's like 40 pages long, and it's and it works. I mean, this is the thing, is like, if you actually hear the recording of it, to me it's amazing.
It's like math poetry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
It's like math rock.
Math rock, but with words.
With
yeah.
words.
And there's a lot of other ways that people are playing, with language that way, and it gets, to me, it's interesting. But yeah, it's in the same way that listening to a Rush album can be interesting.
Right. But Rush album, you don't have to appreciate the numbers or the ratios.
Well, you don't need to with this either. It's like,
you could just read it and still get something from it.
Yeah, I mean, even if you get nothing from it, you can be like, I got nothing from that. It's like that means nothing to me, and that's okay. This is the thing. Like, this is, like, one of the things with art in general. It's like, I've taken some people, for example, to a modern classical thing, like in Beijing, at the Egg.
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't understand. And you're like, it's music. You just listen. Like, you can like it or not like it, but, there's nothing to understand. It's
I guess,
music.
because people have this idea of classical music that you have to understand all the different parts and the movements and everything and the different structures.
I don't get shit. It's like, I just sit there and listen. It's like, and again, like, it comes down to, like, you can have taste. Like, I prefer this over that, but it's like, at the end of the day, it's just music.
Have you read anything in Chinese poetry, or does that even exist?
What Chinese?
I know Chinese poets. They're gonna send hate mail. Of course, China has 5,000 years of history. Of course, but like in terms of like even modern poetry, because I know the spittoon stuff. I was reading some of it. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I've got a couple of collections of stuff that's been translated, but I'm like my Chinese isn't.
You wouldn't be able to
anywhere
read it
that.
in the original.
Yeah, although I'm actually I'm about 3 weeks late on a book review that I was meant to do of a guy named Man Ke.
Mm-hmm. Mencius?
Huh?
Mencius? No.
No.
Okay.
That's his name, Man Ke. He's from Beijing. He lives south of here. But he's one of the original modern poets.
Right.
He started a magazine in the late 70s with a whole bunch of other poets who have since moved to the U.S. and gotten sweet gigs at universities, but he stayed here.
Right.
But so I'm reading him in translation, but they've got the Chinese, on the other side, and his work is simple enough. Like he's actually purposefully simple, so that like, when I look at the English and then I look at the Chinese and I go like, oh yeah, that's right.
That is what he says. Yeah.
But as far as like experimental types, like I'm sure they're out there. I just.
But they're not obvious enough that someone would be able to find them very easily. You'd have to know where to look.
Well, yeah, and also, how would you translate?
Yeah, your Chinese would have to be so good that you'd have to read it in the original.
Like I know there's an artist. I forget what his name is, but like one of the things that he does is purposefully mess up Chinese characters. So it's like he'll write out like something that'll be like 100 characters, and each character has like one thing wrong.
Right.
I
would appreciate that. I think I would appreciate that more than any other sort of classical Chinese literature.
Well, but the thing is like, so knowing what he's doing, how would you replicate that in any other, like you can't, because it's.
Well, if you were to change the form of the letter, or if you were to miss out part of the spelling,
or
like if you with a U,
just take like the Shui character, for example, if you just put a line through part of it, like you've ruined the word. It's no longer a word.
Right.
Everyone knows what it is because they see it.
Yeah.
So how would you do that? It's like that doesn't. That's actually something that doesn't translate.
So it's very language specific.
Yeah, but it's but when you look at it, it's like super cool, and especially like like with me, like I don't really read the language, so it's like I'm looking at it and it's like, okay, well that looks a lot like this calligraphy thing over here that you guys seem to really love, and I don't know, like you're hating that, but you're loving this.
I wonder if China sort of has an issue with that because it's like they are very proud of their cultural preservation, and like the one document they don't want to survive is like the bastardization of the language. I mean, it'd be like almost like if someone were to the only surviving material is a Plato we had is like some joke copy that a monk made. He's like, haha, suckers.
Yeah.
And it's like now it completely changed their interpretation of what was going on. So would this be a target for you to actually translate some of this new modern poetry, or doesn't sound like it is much of an incentive?
Like quite honestly, it would require a lot more language that it's like that would be for the HSK9 guys.
Right.
But there would be no money in it. And
you wouldn't do it for the money.
No, and like that's the kind of stuff that like people wouldn't, like. For the people that are translating, why would that be the thing that they chose to translate? Because they would want to translate the stuff that people wanted to read.
Unless of course they want to bring that idea.
Yeah.
That they want to expose that, bring it to other audiences that might find it interesting. Like the Chinese character writing that you mentioned. I mean, that sounds actually kind of neat. If I'd actually rather see the original than the any sort of translation that can come out of it. But
yeah, later it's I'll look him up and point him to you. Like it's he's actually pretty famous as far as like artist types go from China, but
Yeah, those I have one book from Ye Hua. He's not a poet yet, but
Oh yeah, yeah.
have
Which
you
one? Yeah.
Chronicles of a Blood
Oh yeah, I like that one.
Blood Merchant. There you
Yeah.
go. I have not read it yet. I've read
Okay.
the first 2 pages, and that was 6-7 months ago.
Keep going. It's a shit hammer of a story.
Right. My girlfriend read it in a day. It's 6 hours, I think it
Yeah.
took her to read it. It took me 6 hours to read the first 2 pages, I think. The reason I mentioned that, though, is because that was last year's attempt at it. Now, this year I want to try it again, or at least some point I want to try that again. But he is renowned for writing as Chinese was spoken back
Yeah.
in the 80s.
Yeah.
And that's why one of those books, that book in particular, and then some of his other earlier works, are easy to read, but they're also very colloquial.
Yeah.
And it would be the language has changed, not necessarily the mannerisms have changed since then. So it's like what was cool to say back in the 80s is not what you'd say these days. Like, like cowabunga. I guess would be one of the examples from English. If someone's, you granddad. Well, obviously you're a 90s kid or an 80s kid, right? But I'll try it again. Have you been able to read any of the older Chinese stuff? Have you ever been interested in reading any of the classical Chinese poetry that they
I've read in
love
translation.
so much? Right.
I mean, like my Chinese isn't good enough to. I'm actually tomorrow night. I'm going to the Egg, and they are singing. I don't know how many. Like, I think it's like 20 or 50 Tang poems.
Right.
Set to music.
Okay.
Yeah, why not? But it actually.
Are they going to have an orchestra? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like a full on production. Like, apparently the way that they were meant to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that I was thinking of earlier. Because I know you're a classics guy. Like when we're reading.
I have the degrees. Yes.
Well, no, but like when like reading Sappho or all these other poets, especially the Greek poets, or even like reading Psalms, like those were all put to music.
Yeah.
So it's like when you're reading it on the page, like that's it's kind of like reading a play.
Kind of boring.
Well,
kind of dry.
Well, it is what it is. Like like Shakespeare is fine in a book, but that's not what it's meant to be. It's meant to be the thing on the stage.
A spectacle. Yeah.
Yeah. So people people forget that's.
You're down the mosh pit, eating your whatever.
Yeah,
what would you be eating back in those times? Your pizza slices, your hot dogs and hamburgers, like that. It was that sort of presentation.
Yeah, but just the idea, it's like how that's we've gotten removed from what it is, It's
now, to be fair, the Tang poems were not meant to be performed with hot dogs and hamburgers in hand. Those were performed for the upper echelons, the emperor, basically.
Yeah, and,
very different demographic.
Yeah, but the idea, though, it's going to be with music. It's actually going to be performed, like, so it'll be closer-ish, depending on, like, I doubt that they have the original scores.
Yeah, well...
it'd be cool if they did, but, I have a feeling it'll be much more lush than what was there, but, it's like, I find that interesting, like, to me, that's kind of interesting.
You read a few different languages, though. I mean, you have... You're pointing to my classics, but you also have a history background as well with your biblical Hebrew, French, medieval Latin, anything else? Chinese now.
Ish. More spoken than... no, that's it. That's enough.
So do you write poetry as a sort of a response from all that stuff, or did you do that because you were poetic in mind back in the years?
God, I wish I had that kind of planning. I would not be here. No, it's it filters in, because it all filters in. It's like everything I read gets filtered in, but that's,
Do you still read biblical Hebrew or medieval Latin at all? Because I remember you reading a French novel at the office one day. I'm like, the fuck are you doing reading that?
I read mostly Psalms, because, like, quite honestly, like, the rest of it's I like the language of the Psalms better.
Okay.
Let me. How do I dig myself out of that? No, but it takes effort for me now. Like before, it was much easier, but I let it lapse, and now, it's like I'm slowly getting back into it. But it's getting there. Yeah, Latin not so much. Although the Latin, one of the things that I want to do is I want to go back and I want to translate Florus, who is a very minor poet in France in the early 800s.
Why do you want to translate this guy's work?
Because when I was studying and when I was doing my medieval studies stuff, which is why I learned Latin, he was in the group of the people that I was reading and translating, and I just never got around to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he among other things, like he was a church guy, and like all this other stuff, and that stuff is people pay attention to, but they kind of forget his poetry. So it'd be interesting to go back and take a look at that. Like I'm sure it's all it's a nice way to put it. Not great.
What would make it not bad, or is it just like terribly written, or is it just
no, well, it's I would have to go back and look at it. Like I like it's all like faith based,
okay.
Because he's like from the church, so it's it'll be from that school,
putting on that good face to the people, the powers that be.
Well, yeah, and also the fact that if he were good, he'd be better known, and so it's like But as an exercise in getting back into Latin, like that seems like a good place to.
Do you want to get back into Latin?
Yeah, why not? It took me so long to get my Latin up, that it would be a shame to completely lose it.
I don't know. I look at my history of learning languages and I'm like, I have no real desire to go back to it. But I think we've talked about this before, where it's like, do you get anything when you sit down to read it in the original, or would you just rather read a professionally translated English version?
Well, this is something, like the translation is never the same thing.
But it's easier than learning a language to read something.
But yeah.
I know 100%. I can't. If someone ever said that to young Steven, I'd be like, old Steve would come back. No. You don't have to learn a language to read this. You can find them in English.
You really don't. It's like whatever. Like you don't need to learn French to read Voltaire. Like
read the footnotes.
The ideas come through. It's it's fine, but it's the style might not. But most people don't care about that.
Do you need that? If you're looking more for the content.
Depends on how you read.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, so when you're reading old biblical Hebrew and medieval Latin, you're not looking content. You're looking more how it's written. Because with the Psalms, it sounds like
with the biblical Hebrew, I'm trying to look at how it's written.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not back at that level yet, but that's the goal. Is to be. Looking at stuff like that. Ironically, the guy that I studied biblical Hebrew with, like his whole background was in stylometrics.
Okay.
Which is basically looking at language use, like how, like for example, if a work came out, like if someone found like a new work that they think might have been Hemingway's, you could actually count how many thes, like using like corpus, linguistics type stuff.
Yeah.
And like actually analyzing. He was doing this with the Bible to show different authors of different passages and getting himself into a lot of trouble.
Why? What was happening?
Well, because he was arguing, for example, that like, certain books had like 5 different writers.
Mm-hmm.
Which if you look at the styles, scientifically the argument would say, there's that, but then you would have people invested otherwise saying like, no, this is all from this one guy.
Really? So this is still an issue.
Everything's an issue.
Wow.
I mean, that's actually why I got out of it.
And I would actually, I would say that's why I never went into, like,
Yeah.
at the end of my master's, I looked at it. I'm like, I can't do a PhD in this.
Yeah.
This field is done.
Yeah.
At least, although that being the case, if I was studying it now, I think I would be more interested in the reconstruction, like utilizing computers more than what computers were being used for before. Because
Yeah.
what it was before was counting the
Yeah.
words, the diacritical marks, the
Yeah.
different word placements. I'm like, this is not. I'm not. No, I'm not writing a dissertation on this. This is done.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no new content. I mean, unless you're going to talk
Well,
about how the modern
yeah.
application of it, but there's nothing.
And yeah, now it's you can take like all of Marx, plug it into an app, literally, and it'll spit out exactly like how often, like which words are used, how often, all of this, and it's just, yeah, let the computer do it.
Do you need that information? I guess people do look at it, and
Well, if you're looking at, it depends on what you're looking at. It's like if you're looking at rhetoric.
Give me an example. I don't know.
That would matter.
I remember one of the big things when computers hit classics in the early 2000s. It was basically you could then search the whole corpus.
Yeah.
That was the big thing, and you could find how often this word was used, and you could like morphology, entomology, sort of how words developed over time. What words were in use, how it was being translated, or how it could be translated at that time. That was the big issue. But I mean, epigraphy itself is a separate field of study that, I mean, is interesting, but everything's been already transcribed. We're not finding new blockbuster books in Latin. It's just not happening.
Yeah.
Although there was a cave that was recently excavated in one of the Middle Eastern countries. I have no idea which one it was. And they found 50 new volumes of something that sheds some more light on the old Bible as it was. But I'm not sure what is going to come from it. I don't know. Is it going to change anything?
It'll give PhD candidates something to write about,
Just the candidates, not the tenured professors?
They're tenured.
I guess it would be a good publication. It's neat. It's interesting to learn, but applicability to modern day, what would it be? Like, what would change? I don't know. Then we find out there's aliens. That the whole Ancient Aliens documentary was all of a sudden true to some extent.
See, there's before there were angels,
right.
Then there were UFOs,
right,
and now we're just in a game simulation. So everything, we're always watched over. It's okay.
Yeah, it would be interesting but because India has a lengthy literature. History, cultural history, and they make reference to things that we would consider to be UFOs or alien technology as well. But I don't know.
They also have the original Monkey King, but don't tell anyone.
Why do they have that?
That's where the Monkey King comes from. It's actually an Indian story.
Oh no! Oh no! Change of history. Oh, the battle for cultural supremacy or historical supremacy.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you find that the histories at all sort of affect any of your modern living at all? Like whether not just Chinese, but any sort of the histories that you studied, university or elsewhere.
How would it affect me?
Quality of life. I mean, your thought process. I don't know. I mean, what would it do?
I honestly, I find myself, thinking a lot about different connections of how things go, but that's just me. Sitting in my room,
keeping yourself activated.
Like my mind works like spaghetti. It's like I make connections where there probably aren't any.
Yeah.
No, like I think some of it's interesting. It's like you've got, like especially like the mythologies, like Joseph Campbell kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like how the world shares like 10 basic myths, and we just keep building on those.
Did you ever read his books?
Yeah.
All of them?
Not all of them, but a few of them, and I watched his PBS specials.
I think that's where most people found out. PBS,
Yeah.
yes, thank you, did the hard work for us. I've never actually read his whole works. It was just too dry for me.
Hero with a Thousand Faces. That was if you're going to do like I was teaching medieval studies while I was studying medieval studies, and you kind of need that as a that's a good framework.
That's one of the foundational books of the studies.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it helps build a framework to present to a class, because like otherwise, it's just dates and names and who cares.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're talking about stories and ethos and blah blah blah, like somehow that's more interesting.
Do you see yourself returning to academia at all?
I honestly I give it thought every now and again, because
it's a good old person's thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah. You get to a point where you're just like, what? I could do this for another 20 years, or I could read books for 2 years and then.
I don't believe you could, but okay.
Well, the robots will take over.
The robots will take over.
No, and they should.
They should take over already. Why haven't they?
No, but it's I think about it. I'm not. If I were driven to it, I'd already be doing it.
Right.
It's something that's there.
Would you ever consider teaching poetry and literature and that sort of aspect of things?
I would like to do that, but at more of a community level. Like in the States, the MFA has ruined poetry.
Why?
Because it's most MFAs produce people who all read the same books.
Yeah.
And they all write in a very similar style. Sorry, poets who are reading this, but it's true. No, and it's it's created a whole industry of its, like a non-paying gift economy industry, but an industry of itself where you have poets who go through MFA to write the kind of books that people in MFAs read, so that they can get a job teaching in an MFA program, so that people can, and it perpetuates itself.
Isn't that academic? But is that a bad thing though? Because it does further the studies though. So you'd have specialists, which makes sense in that.
But it's like T.S. Eliot worked at a bank. Wallace Stevens sold insurance. It's like.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I mean, I would agree with you. Actually, I have a blog post I never did publish. It was titled "The Working Musician."
Yeah.
And I wrote this a couple of years ago. Just and it was almost sort of a response to me coming to China and not really wanting to be part of the music group. I didn't care anymore.
Yeah.
Or at least I just didn't want that hassle. And part of the reason is because like there's no real money in it, and I'm spending money to make this stuff. But there's no return, and okay, I know you express yourself, at least you're not doing drugs or getting, causing other fights or whatever, but at some point you're kind of like, does this need to be made? And if it's going to be made, I gotta make it good, or spend more time thinking about it. At some point you do, I do encourage people to make it anyway, to go through it. Yeah. The most recent project I did was January, where I made a song or a track every day for January.
Did you do that?
I did. A lot of it was shit.
Well, of course.
Oh, God, it was horrible. I listen to it now, I'm like, eesh. Turn it off.
Yeah.
Some of it was good.
No, that's awesome. Good for you. I didn't know that you were actually going to do that.
This year has been very productive.
Yeah.
I mean, I did January. I did the 48 miles in whatever it was over 2 days. I've started studying Russian. I'm doing HSK4 test. Next month, May... The challenge I'm thinking about this. I've titled it, May You Make Your Movie. And the idea is for every day, you make a simple 6 to 15 second movie clip.
Yeah.
Like a study, basically. And so this has been inspired by seeing some of these filmmakers on Instagram, where they replicate some, how do you film someone in a helicopter if you don't have a helicopter? You get a chair and you hold it around you, you film it, and you have Google Maps in the background on a TV screen, and then you film it so the lawn chair is just partially it's green, and you give them a helmet or something and a little microphone. Looks like they're in a helicopter, right? So things like that, and I was thinking it was more just a study to see what's going to happen. I was thinking like, given the pace of video editing these days, and I'm finding this with my drone videos that some of my shots are too long.
Yeah.
A 5-second drone shot, it better be epic, or else it's just too long. It's 1 second, 2 seconds. How many shots do you need? How fast can you make that? Not just shoot it, but then edit it and then publish it. So that's going to be maze.
Awesome.
We'll see if I don't know. I talk tough. I talk a good game. We'll see if it actually happens.
No, I did before time, like early 2000s. I did videos, and some of them actually got shown, like around Europe, actually Venezuela, surprisingly enough. But it was all about the editing, just like quick edits, none of my footage, just like all stuff that I appropriated, which actually eventually got me not into trouble, but I had to go back and source everything, because when it got shown like in Berlin and Paris, and they had to actually get permissions, and it was just like, oh Jesus, like some movie from like 1917, and at
the beginning you were saying the kids had to cite the PhDs had to cite their works. Well, this is what it is.
But that's academic. That's different.
Artists don't deserve to be cited.
Exactly.
Come on, they're all stealing stuff anyway.
Well, this is I'll talk about that, and then I'll get back to the video editing.
Yeah.
With like things like poetry, I don't cite anything. I steal all the time. How
are you going to cite it?
Well, some people do, and that's crap.
It wrecks the flow of it.
You don't want a footnote on a poem.
No, you don't.
And Ezra Pound, although he's no longer fashionable, given his politics,
right?
But he stole all the time, and his basic defense was like, well, you should be a good reader and know.
Yeah, there's something to be said about that.
Yeah,
but the current legal structure, and I blame the United States for this, because it employs a lot of lawyers to make a lot of money.
Well, this is the thing, though. It's like I'm not making any money, so I have caused zero damage.
Right. Well, and that it does come down to that, whether or not you're actually making money, and that's the only time they care.
Yeah, exactly. But no. So with this video thing, they were just like, can you tell us like every movie that you it's just like, oh. And I actually had to go back, and I was like, what the hell film was I looking at that week?
Yeah.
Because it's like it's all old movie stuff, and I used like in one piece that I did, it was all Chinese Cultural Revolution type
the best
stuff. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm just like, I don't know where I got that, shit.
You think the internet's changed how copyright's going to be enforced? I think it has to.
Well, yeah, but it's okay. It'll be done by a robot.
On Twitter, I've had this exchange with a couple other finance people, and it's like, blockchain, first of all, isn't bad. Tracking us might not be bad. It might be used for some purposes, but whatever. Imagine if you could generate a poem that was then referenced by someone else, and every time it was referenced, you got paid a penny or something, like streaming royalties. Yeah. But now this was tied directly to your social insurance number or whatever, so you got paid. The tax man knows they take a quarter of it anyway, but you still get paid every time. So every time it gets liked or shared, you would get paid for it. I think people would bite for that. They would be like, yeah, I can make more money. You're going to make 10 cents extra.
Chuck D would be all for that.
Why? What would he do?
Well, no, he was like, back in the day, he was like the first like Public Enemy were in the forefront of streaming and sharing and doing everything that wasn't using the record companies.
Right.
Because he was like, I don't want them to get paid. I want to get paid.
Yeah. But it goes back to the working musician. I mean,
it goes
you're
back
gonna
to
have
owning your masters.
owning your masters and having a day job probably too to
Yeah.
actually be able to pay for some of this stuff. And yeah, you get being a musician, being a creative type, there's equipment that you need. You don't need a lot, but to record it and publish it, you do. I mean, and if you're not publishing it, are you making it for yourself?
Well, this is the thing. It's like, okay, so you go ahead, you go into a studio, or you buy a shit ton of gear to do it at home, because no one's doing shit on 4 tracks anymore. They should.
No, that's 4 track. The Zoom is the Zoom recorder is 4 track.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But it's like, that aesthetic doesn't really wash anymore.
No, you gotta have decent
Like
production.
People actually expect quality sound, even though they don't want to pay for it.
That is the biggest thing. The Blair Witch Project is a case of point with Paranormal Activity. The big marketing scheme was that, oh, look at this homemade movie. Then you listen to the soundtrack, you're like, that is crystal clear. Yeah. That is gorgeous sound. That ghost sounds really good.
Yeah.
I mean, wow, that witch. 5.1 Dolby Surround? Really?
Yeah.
That is phenomenal sound from a little AV camera, a little handheld camera. There does need to be some good quality. It doesn't take much. It's a lot cheaper. The barrier to entry is a lot lower than it was back in the day.
Yeah. Well,
Are you making a lot of stuff at home these days?
No, my audio's broken my computer, so I actually need to. No, it's a problem. No, I'm actually like a couple weeks away from getting a new computer just for recording.
Right.
Because I don't have anything other than my phone to record on at the moment, and I'm doing a project with my friend in New York, so it's all like, here's my iPhone recording, plug that in.
You can get.
No, it sounds alright. Yeah.
You need a good microphone. That's all.
Yeah.
And then it's a cable.
My
cable
actual
connection.
audio, like the hardware is fakakta.
Oh, okay. What kind of computer are you gonna get? Apple.
Probably.
The best.
Yeah, it's.
You can go PC and then get virused, and then.
Well, this is.
Have to Jimmy rig the thing.
Half of the problem is like I have I have a PC now, and it's like the hard drives melted, replace those, and it's like now this is and it's just like, you know what. New computer. My last Apple that I had lasted like 12 years.
Yeah, they do make, for as much as they are overpriced.
Yeah.
You're getting something you're going to use for a while. I don't know any PC computer that has stuck around for longer than a few years at most.
I think I've had this one 5.
Yeah, but it's probably slowed down in the last year and a half, 2 years.
It's dead, and and then when the guys replaced the hard drive, they also, without asking me, uploaded a Chinese operating, like Windows 10 Chinese version that I can't un-Chineseify.
Isn't it just language settings?
The language settings is the top layer.
Right.
But I go deeper into the operating systems for some of the stuff that I do, and that's all in Chinese. So I can't actually.
Really?
Yeah, it's so stupid.
I thought it was all made in Latin characters, Roman alphabet.
That's a layer below the layer that I need to get to.
Oh, okay. So when can we expect this project to be out?
That's a good question, but this is no. But what's amazing about this? Okay, so the guy that I'm working with in Brooklyn, I've been in 2 or 3 bands with him. He's the guy that the picture of me playing bass. He's the guy with the funky clothes.
Oh, okay.
Matt Lusk.
Right.
And at some point in the 90s, I traded him my 1983 or 84 Yamaha drum machine for a fedora hat.
Right. Oh, so this is a revenge, or what's going to happen?
No, it's awesome. No, but he still has the drum machine. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But he's recently pulled it out, and he's playing like all these beats that I had programmed back when I was 13.
Yeah.
And they are all like beautiful. Every single one of them
Really?
is we're gonna use every single one of them. They're that good.
Oh God! All right, well, this should be interesting to hear.
Well, exactly. So that's where the project's starting, because like he's like sent me back like 4-minute chunks of different beats, and he's like, okay, work with it.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm.
So what are
working
you
with.
doing on this end?
Very like right now, like we're gonna build it in layers.
Mhm.
So like the last thing I just did was like a very simple guitar skeleton, so that there's a basic chord structure, and then I have no idea what he's going to put on top of that. I really do. It could be anything. Like he's actually got like a player piano.
Okay.
That he manipulates the scrolls, so it might be some of that. He's got half a indie rock circa 1993 studio in his place.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be any of that. Like he's got like little tiny crappy amps that you got from like Goodwill.
Who's your target audience for this?
I never think of audiences.
Other creatives who might be interested in finding something
this
new.
is the thing. I mean, this is actually like to be honest, if and this goes, I think to part of why like what you were talking about, like being a working person doing music, or like if I were going at this and having to worry about like pushing units or getting streams or all of that, it's like I would be doing a whole very different thing.
What would you be doing instead?
154, 145.
Okay.
Like because that's what people like.
Yeah.
Like if I were worried about that, it'd be like, okay, listening to. Well, actually, I did. Before I came here, I was listening to the top 10 in the States, because one of our colleagues told me that I was too old to appreciate pop music.
Who? Who's young enough to even say that?
Someone who likes the Beatles. You know who I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right.
Well, no, but no, because like a couple weeks ago.
What pop music, though? Like Chinese pop music?
Well, no. I was actually listening to what's in the States, and quite honestly, I would say 47 out of the top 50 songs in the States right now are hip hop or rap.
Yeah.
Which is fine, and the production is amazing. Actually, like the production levels have gone way the hell up, and there's some of it shows a lot of talent, and some of it's pop, and that's fine. But this all came up though because a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I was talking to someone at work, as you do, and this person was going on about how good Justin Bieber was, and I realized I hadn't actually listened to any Justin Bieber song outside of that Baby song that you hear.
Baby. Oh yeah, I know that song. I don't want to sing it because I'll get flagged for copyright violation.
But the thing is, like, okay, so then I had to wonder, like, okay, maybe there's something to this. Does he have any talent? Because I don't.
What was your conclusion?
Well, I went home and I watched 10 videos, and my conclusion is that he has an amazing production company.
Yeah.
The production quality is good, and whoever writes his lyrics is a simpleton, which is fine because that's, he knows what his market is, and he is terrible. He has terrible phrasing. On the songs where he's trying to be in the hip hop vein of pop, his phrasing is atrocious. And what is interesting is he gets guest rappers who then mimic his terrible phrasing, and it's really, really bad.
Wow. Okay.
But this isn't to say pop music is bad, and this is, it's like the production is good, the way that, the music is set up, it's, not anything that I would go to, but, you can see what they're doing, and it's an okay version of what they're aiming at, and all of this. So, long story short, if I had to worry about money, I'd be worried about things like that.
Right.
Whereas like right now, it's like I don't, it's like record on an iPhone, don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Use a crappy dictaphone, don't care. Like it's like I would do it on a cassette 4-track if I still had mine.
If you could find one. Yeah.
Oh, I looked.
Well, I'm sure they exist, but I mean,
They're on Taobao and they are super expensive, as are cassettes.
Well, okay, fine. So you get the cassette, but working with someone in New York, you're going to have to mail it to them because good luck finding a connection. This was my issue. I tried to transfer a bunch of mini DV tapes. I need the FireWire. I couldn't find it.
Do you actually have a machine that does that?
FireWire? No.
No, from mini DV to...
No.
Okay, because I just found... I was going through some boxes that I have, and I found some mini DVs.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what project they are. They're either the masters for the videos that got shown in Europe, or they're me shooting videos of my friends in Brooklyn riding their bikes.
Okay. So it could go this way or that way. Or it could be a sex tape. Who knows? When I was in Canada last for an extended period of time, I actually transferred all of the mini DV tapes I had. I went through all of them. I rented a professional mini DV deck. And it took me a week, I think, to transfer everything. So, I mean, glory be to the new technology, because the SSD stuff is fantastic, whereas those spinning diffs, the HDDs, took forever. I mean, the mini DV, you had to transfer everything in real time. It was terrible. 180 minutes. What the hell did I shoot for 80 minutes? Oh, no. But I transferred everything. There might be a few tapes left over, but yeah, I went and got a professional deck, and he's like, don't wreck this. I had to sign insurance papers and everything, but even finding the deck, the mini DV deck, because they cost like $1,000 or something to buy.
Yeah.
You can't find used ones because used ones are they're garbage.
Right.
But for you, if I were you, I'd go to like that 568 place or whatever it is and get a cheap mini DV cam and hope that it doesn't chew your tapes. But you can, to get a DV transfer deck, I'm not sure. You'd have to go to Taobao.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'd have to also make sure that it's USB, not FireWire.
What I want to do is I want to go to Mudan Yuan, where they have the movie production companies and the like, and I just want to find like some post-production guy and go like, look, take this, put it on this drive. Here's some money.
I don't think you have to go to Mudan Yuan. You could probably go closer here.
Yeah.
You just put an
I
ad
could
up.
probably just ask Graham.
Yeah, maybe.
Probably have to pay him though.
I mean, I think even there's got to be any TV company.
No, this is one of these things. Like, it was a project that I was going to do with Lee, because I've got like a couple of things that like for example, I've got like DV, like DVDs.
Yeah.
I've got like a sound installation that is 8 CDs, and I don't have a single thing that plays a CD anymore, because like that's.
You can buy an external drive, though. Those are pretty cheap.
But I don't wanna. Like, what am I gonna like? So I buy that drive, and then I transfer these 8 CDs.
And then what?
Yeah, and then I got a drive.
Well, then it sits in your apartment, and you take it around the world with you, as the one that I have is. But I bought it for that reason. I was like, same the reason I told my family never to throw out the VHS tape. I have a VHS player, and it's a DVD and VHS player in one.
Yeah.
It's a combo. I'm like, don't ever throw this thing out. This thing is gold. I don't care, because in 20 years, when you're looking to transfer that tape, you're going to look for this thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't care if it takes up room. I'll pay for the rent. Just don't throw it out. I'm not paying rent on that one, the square foot that it takes up. But it's some of those things, because they break. I mean, there's always stuff being made that in terms of that technology, it's not being made necessarily better, but it is new.
Well, no, this is the thing, is like I purposefully work with old technology. Like I used to have a handheld reel-to-reel.
Yeah.
That I used to, And I used to have like big reel-to-reels, like, you know, I still use guitar pedals.
Well, people still use those.
Yeah, you don't just buy a box. This little thing.
Is that what it does? I don't know. I finally got a guitar. I'm never going to use it, but I have one.
Yeah, but no, it's like I've got about a dozen guitar pedals now. You know, I told you this. Like I just played baseball through it.
Right.
Makes a huge lot of noise.
Yeah, it sounds like that's what you're going for.
Well, yeah. Between the gamelan and the baseball noise wall, like I'm a good hotel neighbor.
What's he doing in there? Oh.
Yeah.
So, are you aiming to produce anything other than this project that you got with New York?
Not. I mean, not actively, you know, but it's, you know, it's one of those things. Like, you know, like I say, like I play every day. So if, you know, if it were, you know, if I had the setup to easily record, like, you know, I would do that. But I don't know that I would actually put that anywhere, you know.
So this is what keeps you busy. Is this what most expats do? I don't know. This conversation pops up. What do normal people do with their lives? I don't know. What is a normal person, normal expat?
Well, it seems like Owen watches a lot of movies.
Yeah. Well, he started that again. He plays soccer though, football.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, but this is like the same thing. You know, the same thing. Like when, you know, like when I'm in the States, you know, it's like what do most people do?
I don't know. What do people do? I have no idea. But could you return to the States and live a life? I don't know if I could.
Yeah, but I would be the
sparkling
weirdo on the
lights.
block.
Was that?
I'd be the weirdo on the block. But yeah.
Be that guy, that elder statesman.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it'd be like, you know, why are all these, you know, why are these kids with gear coming to his house on Thursdays? Why are they playing horseshoes in the backyard? You know?
Must be illegal. They're probably doing drugs. Well, it's no longer drugs anymore. It's video games, isn't it? That's what the big accusation is.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I could return to Canada, at least not to my hometown. I'm not sure. I think people would be like, well, and we don't want you either. I don't know. I'm sure. I just
seems like Winnipeg's a swinging place.
Oh, it is. It's a swinging, hopping town. Everyone has a band. I mean, if you're not in a band, then you know people in a band. It's a creative community, but it's just so isolated. It's very isolated. We don't have
hockey. Got rodeo.
Yeah, but it's not like Toronto, not like Detroit, where you're close to that corridor and even close to that whole eastern seaboard of the United States that has that burgeoning cultural background, that things that people are moving around and stuff. Winnipeg, in the center, right there. I mean, people aren't moving and swinging too much over there. Not to say that there isn't an arts community. I know people involved with it.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I'm trying to think of like the U.S. equivalent.
Chicago, but even then, Chicago.
No, Chicago hops, man. I would move
Minneapolis.
to Chicago.
There you go. Or Minneapolis or like Minnesota would be your closest equivalent. But even then, Minnesota
awesome.
Minnesota has like the tourist industry only because Canadians go down there.
Okay, I was gonna say, I never really thought of it as a touristy place.
Except if you're from Winnipeg, then you're like, yeah, let's go to Minnesota for the weekend, whoa, or Minneapolis for the weekend, Fargo or Grand Forks, places like that. That would be within driving distance.
God, Fargo.
Yeah.
Have you been to Fargo?
It would have been a while ago.
I was gonna say, like, I drove through Fargo. I just remember on the outskirts, it was like. A lot of tractor, backhoe, and earth mover dealerships, and you're just like, yep, that's.
That's Fargo. I've heard Winnipeg described as like one big farm city, and it kind of is because I mean there's farmland all around it. And
well, I told you I drove from Vancouver clear across.
When did you do that?
Late 90s. Me, my sister, and her friend in a Dodge Ram pickup.
Right.
Drove from Atlanta, Georgia, down to San Diego, down into Tijuana, all the way up to Vancouver, all across to Toronto, down into Detroit.
It was a great American road trip. North American road trip.
Yeah.
What was the purpose?
We didn't want to pay rent, so we thought we would
just keep driving.
Spend 3 months on the road.
3 months?
Yeah.
Did you document it? Blog?
No.
Nothing. Wow, that's such a 90s thing to do. You mean you did something and didn't tell everybody about it?
Yeah, because not yeah.
Shocking.
You do things for the experience. Imagine that.
Well, yeah, I guess. Would you do something similar in China, do you think? Road trip?
I did. I kind of did. When I first came to China, I spent 2 months going from like city to city to city.
Mm-hmm.
Slow trains. They didn't have fast trains then. Like slow trains and buses, basically. And I was gone for 2 months.
Yeah,
that was cool.
It's a different world. It really is.
Yeah.
It does put the developing into the developing nation aspect of China.
I was like, especially when I was in like Guizhou and the south part of Yunnan, where it was, like you get to a place and it was like 10 homes.
Yeah.
And that's where the bus stopped, and you're like, okay, can I stay with you?
So you've been in China for a while. What would you say has been the greatest change in the time that you've been here? Like since you first touched down in 2005 to now?
Ain't a lot, but like, there's a middle class.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, quite honestly, I think that's changed everything. Although, someone was explaining to me that the middle class is only 20%, which is hard to believe. But
would you think it's more or less?
I don't know, but that doesn't seem like a healthy number for the middle.
Why?
Well, because that would mean that the bottom would be something like 70 or 75.
That would make sense.
Well, that would make sense.
That would explain all the Quiet guys.
Yeah, but that doesn't, explain what you're looking at out your window.
What I'm living in. You're right. I'm walking down the street. I see Mercedes, Porsche, Lamborghini.
Fact, like, this right here is probably worth like $3 million.
It's 3.5, I think.
Yeah.
It was. I have this ad from one of the one of the agencies, and I was looking, going, "Holy shit, this thing's worth that much!" I'm like,
yeah,
I can find that in Winnipeg.
Well, this is the thing. Like, I don't understand as far as because like not to talk too much about money, but like I told you, my landlords bought my place as a rental investment, and it's I would have to lease that place for like a good couple 100 years
mm-hmm.
for them to recoup what they paid for it. Like, it's like that model doesn't really work.
I think we saw the end of that. That was something that air conditioner right there is from 2005.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that's original or native to this apartment, and I suspect that the fridge that went out last week was as well. And I think that was sort of your last great push for real estate in China.
Yeah.
And you see it in news articles where the ghost towns that do exist, which I never really appreciated before. But there's two things about that. Number one, they're using materials for those buildings not to last. Like, they're not meant to be intergenerational, multi-generational. They're meant to be like one. That's it.
There's two kinds of concrete they use in China.
I've heard this story before.
Then the one that lasts 35, the one that lasts 70.
And now they're using the 35
one.
So the second thing is that they're building all of these buildings in places where you're kind of like, why would they build them there? But with the coronavirus pandemic now pushing people out of major cities like Beijing and Shanghai, you go, that kind of makes sense, that there's somewhere for them to go. Now, are they going? I don't know. I mean, there's still opportunities in Beijing, more than there would be outside of Beijing. But buying a rental property, I don't know if it's a good idea. But then again, I'm not swinging in those leagues at this moment.
Well, no, and the thing is, like these guys, like I'm sure their idea is, when we need the money, we'll just flip the house.
Yeah, but to who? Again,
to someone who's going to pay more than they paid for it.
Who's the part of the 20% who's going to buy them?
I don't think it's the 20% though. It's like, I think you're looking at the 5 or the 10% above the 20%, and this is what I'm saying. Like, it's not, like if you think of it geometrically, like, it's not a good shape.
Or is it going to be a bad sale to like a bottom 70%, and the whole village goes in to buy an apartment in Beijing,
And
a
then
timeshare.
And then you have like 2008 happen.
Yeah, I could see that happen.
Oh,
I
yeah.
could see something like that happen. But I don't know. I mean, I haven't really looked at Chinese real estate.
Well, no, it's I read in the Beijing review, so I actually trust the numbers ish. Probably add some to it because they're from the it's whatever it's a propaganda publication, but something like 20% of the apartment spaces in Beijing is empty.
Yeah.
So how are rents going up?
How are rents going up, and how can they afford these places? I don't
Yeah.
know. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense at all. I look outside. I walk around here. Half of the windows are empty, black,
Yeah.
dark. I'm going, who buys this stuff?
Yeah.
I mean, who's living here? What do they do? What job do they have? I want to know what you're doing to make the money so I can make that money. Show me.
Well, this is I had it explained to me before that people don't trust the stock market.
Yeah. Well.
Well, we'll leave that at that. And so, real estate is the only investment that people actually have any faith in, and so that before there were the laws about buying up 20 apartments in Beijing, that's what families would do because that money is not going to disappear in theory.
At least they have somewhere to live. In the stock market, I dabble in the Chinese stock market here, and I found that the only way, in the United States, you can trade based on seasonality.
Yeah.
You can look at money flows and things like that, technical indicators. In China, you buy whatever's going up today, but China you can't day trade in China.
Right.
Yeah, it's T+1, so you buy today, you sell tomorrow, if you're going to sell, and then you can't get your money out till the next day. So if you sell on a Friday, your money's locked up until Monday. So don't